Chapter 1364. Bang. But when they were still several dozen feet from Wang Chang's group, they seemed to run into an invisible barrier, and all the black smoke and poisonous needles were sent flying to the left and right. Boom. With a wave of Wang Chang's sleeve, all the black smoke and poisonous needles shot into the sky like a waterfall. In the distance, the coachman had long since escaped without a trace, heading into the distance. In the rear, neither Wang Chong, the evil emperor, nor the chief of Wushang moved. But just when the coachman was about to flee to the edge of the carriage, boom! Countless black needles exploded from the sky and struck the distant coachman. With a scream, the coachman ran several steps, and then his body fell forward and fell to the ground. In just a moment, his body immediately hardened and turned black. Finally, he looked like a withered tree that had been dried out for a long time. Let's go! They won't be able to wait for anyone, and they'll be here soon enough. We shouldn't waste too much time with them. The three packed up their things and quickly left. Time slowly passed, and around 2 hours after Wang Chang's group had left, the wind howled and thousands of leaves began to ripple. In a flash of light, 3 bamboo hat men flew down from the trees and appeared next to the abandoned carriage. With just a glance, they grimaced. We've been exposed. These fellows are even more vigilant than we imagined. One of the bamboo hat men said. Shifting their gazes, the 3 of them quickly noticed a figure at the edge of the forest in the distance. Let's go! The 3 glanced at each other and immediately rushed over, crossing several hundred feet in a flash to appear next to the coachman's corpse. The coachman's corpse had been hung on a tree, blackened by the poison. Next to the corpse was a line of words carved with a sword. This meager gift is not enough to show my respect. Written at the bottom was the signature of the Tang dynasty's king of foreign lands. Bastard! A massive fist wreathed in flames pulverized the tree and coachman's corpse. After abandoning the carriage, Wang Chong and the others finally arrived at their destination after about 4 hours. This was a 3-way intersection at the edge of a mountain range. At the point of the intersection, there were 3 gigantic ginseng cypresses that were more than 10 meters tall. They rose steeply from the ground and looked very special in this area. This was where the evil emperor and the chief of Wushang had met during their last trip to the northwest. Something's wrong. After some time, the demonic emperor old man frowned. It's already past the appointed time. Why isn't he here yet? Something's not right. Could something have happened? Chief of Wushang also frowned. The situation here was complicated, and sectarian killings were common. Wang Chong, who had been cultivating under the tree, opened his eyes. This situation was far beyond his expectations. What? All of a sudden, a white messenger pigeon flapped its wings and flew down from the sky towards them. The sudden movement attracted the attention of the 3. The evil emperor stretched out his hand and caught the pigeon. He took a look at the letter on it and his expression changed. Something's wrong. Let's go. Without another word, the demonic emperor old man put away the letter and immediately rushed forward. Wang Chong and the chief of Wushang's hearts tightened. They quickly followed behind the evil emperor. Follow that pigeon. The evil emperor looked up at the sky. Pigeons knew their way. If they could find the person who delivered the letter, they could also find the person who wrote the letter. Master, what's going on? Along the way, Wang Chong couldn't help but ask. This time, the evil emperor didn't hide the truth anymore. As it turned out, the evil emperor and the chief of Wushang had encountered a formation grandmaster. The 3 of them had similar personalities and had traveled together for some time, becoming good friends. Your chief of Wushang and I have done a detailed investigation. Whether it's a real treasure or a fake one, it's usually surrounded by a large number of formations. Neither I nor the chief of Wushang is an expert in this field, so without this person's help, it will be very difficult for us to find the real origin immortal art. He's a very punctual person. Once he's agreed on a time, he'll never be late. Reality has confirmed my judgment. If my guess is correct, he probably ran into an enemy. The evil emperor said. His movement technique was like a bolt of lightning as he weaved through the trees. Not even the dense forest could stop him. Wang Chong silently glanced at his master's back, a pensive look on his face. His master's personality was rather unique. Very few people could catch his eye, and he found it very difficult to view ordinary people as friends. It was already surprising that he could get along well with the chief of Wushang and travel together in search of the origin immortal art. For his master to view this formation elder as a friend, he had to have some extraordinary qualities. The wind howled around them, and as they were thinking, there was suddenly a flash of light, and the area around them became empty. In front of them, above an open space, the white carrier pigeon that everyone had been following all the way suddenly stopped. Like a headless fly, it flapped its wings and circled in the sky, refusing to land. The three of them fell silent at this sight. He probably ran into an enemy here. The evil emperor had a grave expression, a rare hint of unease on his brow. No, there are no signs of a fight here, Wang Chong suddenly said. In this short period of time, he had already looked around. There were some footprints in the surroundings, but there were no messy traces at all, let alone traces of a fight. This was not the appearance of someone who had run into an enemy and then been defeated and captured. Wang Chang's reminder caused the evil emperor and the chief of Wushang to notice their surroundings, and their frowns deepened. Not only that, there's something wrong with that carrier pigeon as well, Wang Chong said as he looked into the sky. Even if a normal carrier pigeon got lost, it would not keep circling in the air like this. The eagle had raised many birds and carrier pigeons, but he had never seen anything like this. Zhang Wenfu, that old scoundrel. As they were thinking, an elderly voice rang out in their ears, tinged with bewilderment. How could it be the two of you? The elderly voice came out of nowhere, rumbling and shaking the earth. Before Wang Chong and the others could react, the ground beneath their feet shook. Following that, under Wang Chong's shocked gaze, about 10 feet away from them, there was nothing but a patch of sand. Suddenly, a brown rock about the height of a human appeared out of thin air and appeared on the ground. Then a second rock, a third rock. In just a moment, the light changed, and a stone array appeared in front of Wang Chong and the others. This stone array was made up of 5 to 6 large rocks, each of them the size of a small mountain. They were scattered on the ground according to a certain pattern. Looking at this shocking scene, even Wang Chong could not help but feel his eyelids twitch and his heart tremble. At this moment, he thought of something. But before Wang Chong could speak, there was a flash of light. Under Wang Chong's dumbfounded gaze, a gray-robed dwarf strode out with an air of seniority and a hand stroking his steel needle-like beard. "How, old scoundrel, so you made a turtle shell and hid it here. Brother Fong, and I thought that you had been captured by your enemies." The evil emperor and the chief of Wushang laughed as they looked at the gray-robed dwarf elder, their expressions extremely amiable. "It seems like he's the formation elder that master spoke of," Wang Chong quietly said to himself. It was clear that this was yet another strange individual that he had not heard of in his last life. He had no idea how his master and the village chief had gotten to know him. How could this be? Those bastards have been trying to capture me for more than a day or two, but in the end, I still managed to fool them with a few rocks. The formation elder coldly snorted, a look of disdain on his face. Since that's the case, why did you send a messenger pigeon asking for reinforcements? The evil emperor heartily laughed, not giving him any face at all. Zhang Wenfu, you old bastard, don't think that just because you've been the demonic emperor for a few years that I'm afraid of you. When did I ever ask you for reinforcements? The formation elder's face turned red, and he glared at Wang Chong. His gaze quickly fell on Wang Chong, and a moment later he leapt up as if provoked. Foul brat, what are you looking at? What kind of eyes do you have? Do you think that you're taller than me? Do you look down on those who are shorter than you? Believe it or not, this old man will take off your head and make you as tall as me. The veins on the formation elder's forehead were bulging, and he could not restrain his rage. It was like Wang Chong had committed some heinous crime. Wang Chong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He hadn't done anything, but the formation elder had suddenly made things difficult for him. Because of his height, this old scoundrel is very sensitive to the gazes of others. There's no need to bother with him. At this moment, a voice as soft as the buzz of a mosquito came from next to him. It was Chief of Wushang's voice. Wang Chong turned his head in surprise and saw that the usually stern chief of Wushang had a smile on his face, a smile that was very different from his usual self. Zhang Wenfu, what's going on? Didn't I tell you that this operation would be fraught with danger and that you shouldn't bring any riffraff with you? This treasury is extremely dangerous, and you actually brought a brat of 18 or 19 with you. The formation elder's anger was hard to quell, and he turned to the evil emperor. Brother Zhou, don't misunderstand. This is Brother Wenfu's disciple, not some outsider. Chief of Wushang smiled. Disciple? The formation elder was stunned, and as he glanced at Zhang Wenfu, he almost exploded in rage. Chapter 1365. Boom! An explosion came from behind him. Wang Chong, a faint smile on his face, flicked his finger, sending a wisp of sword chi at one of the rocks the formation elder was using to form a formation. There's no need for senior to worry. This junior still has the ability to protect himself. Wang Chong drew back his finger and nonchalantly said. For a moment, all was silent. The formation elder stared at Wang Chong in a daze, his mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. How could this be? The formation elder's mind was in turmoil as he stared at this 18 or 19-year-old youth. Although he had taken these rocks from the ground, each one was as tough as steel. More importantly, when he had been hiding from his foes, he had used a formation to fuse these rocks with the earthen energy in a radius of 100 li. He had only opened the formation, not dispersed it, but this youth had been able to shatter one of the rocks with a casual flick of his finger. Not even top-class experts would be able to do such a thing. Well, do you have anything else to say? I already told you that he's this old man's disciple. Did you think that he was some nameless nobody? The evil emperor stroked his beard as he finally spoke. Wang Chong was a perfect match for his temperament, and that flick of his finger had stopped the old scoundrel's chattering mouth. So what if you're skilled in martial arts? The formation elder had an embarrassed expression, his aura weakening, but his mouth was still unwilling to admit defeat. The evil emperor and Chief Wushang silently smiled. This was not their first time getting to know the formation elder, so they couldn't be bothered to expose him. Let's go. The treasury will open this month. Now that the news has been leaked, quite a few people have come from the martial arts world. We'll have to hurry. As the demonic emperor old man spoke, he walked forward. The situation this time is rather complicated. There's been no news of the supreme and infinite origin immortal art for a very long time, but recently, 2 treasure map fragments appeared out of nowhere and led the information here. I felt as though someone was deliberately luring everyone here. I came here earlier than you and have been observing for a while. I've seen at least 20 waves of forces, and even barbarians have come. As the 4 of them traveled, the formation elder began to talk about the northwest. What? Hearing the word, barbarian, Wang Chong instinctively frowned. As a prince of the Tang dynasty, he was most sensitive in this aspect. Senior, do you know which empire these barbarians are from? Wang Chong asked. How would I know? Anyway, all barbarians look the same, and I can't speak the Hu language. What does it have to do with me? The formation elder rolled his eyes at Wang Chong and grumpily said. Wang Chong chuckled to himself and let the matter rest. He knew that the formation elder was still brooding over how he had humiliated the formation elder in front of his master, the evil emperor, and the chief of Wushang. In addition, Zhang Wenfu, you have to be careful. It's not just my enemies that have come. Even that old foe of yours from the martial arts world has come, and he's brought 10-some people with him. Right now, they've plastered up notices about you everywhere. They've stuck a wooden board into the ground, and they can be seen everywhere. I feel like the fact that so many experts have gathered here has a lot to do with him. The formation elder gestured with his hands, and as he spoke, he shot a worried glance at the demonic emperor old man. The demonic emperor old man said nothing, but his expression instantly turned frigid. Even Wang Chong's expression turned grave. His master had always been extremely secretive about the matters of the martial arts world, especially about the plot against him. Ever since Wang Chong had saved him, his master had been cutting himself off from the past. Thus, not even Wang Chong knew the details of his master's plot. He only had a vague idea that his senior brother had played a crucial role in it. But after going around in a circle, it seemed like everything had returned to square one. His master's grudges in the martial arts world could not be avoided. Master, the person who harmed you back then, just who was it? Wang Chong suddenly stepped forward and said in a hushed voice. Chong, don't worry about this matter. The waters of the martial arts world are extremely murky. It's not a good thing for you to get involved. It's better for Master to handle this matter myself. The evil emperor said, his mind seemingly elsewhere. Wang Chong hesitated for a moment, but he did not pursue the matter. His master had once been the #1 figure of the evil path whom everyone feared in the martial arts world, and his methods were vicious and merciless. This matter was clearly not something that could be explained with just a few words. The wind whistled. The group had not gone far when a few pieces of thin paper fluttered in the air and suddenly floated over from the top of the mountain. It floated past not too far away from the crowd. In that instant, everyone raised their heads and looked over. With just one glance, everyone's expressions changed. On that thin piece of paper, there was a human figure drawn in ink. Although the brushwork was crude, the person who drew it was clearly an expert. The face and demeanor of the person on the paper were 70% similar to that of the evil emperor. Swoosh! Wang Chong opened his finger, and the paper immediately flew back into Wang Chong's hand. Arrest warrant. The evil emperor, Zhang Wenfu, is a cruel and ruthless person who kills people like scything flax. He is a great demon of the martial arts world who deserves to be punished. 10,000 sects have issued an arrest warrant. Anyone who discovers this person must immediately report the news or be killed on the spot. There is no need to be soft-hearted when dealing with those of the evil path. Use any method to kill this fiend. If he's alive, I want to see him, and if he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Anyone who can provide information or kill this fiend will be richly rewarded by the Alliance. It was signed off with the words Jingqi League. And beneath it was the image of a yin-yang crane. Upon seeing this arrest warrant, Wang Chong's expression immediately turned grave. This Jingqi League appeared after Brother Zhang disappeared, and in a short time, it united almost all the sects in the north and south. Although Brother Wenfu isn't a good person, and he truly did kill too many people in his early years, he was at least magnanimous and didn't try to hide it. But those people from the Jingqi League, they're complete hypocrites. At some point, the Formation Elder had walked over, his face brimming with disdain. The Formation Elder's short stature meant that he couldn't see the arrest warrant in Wang Chong's hand, so he could only raise his head to look at it. From the back of the paper, the two of them, one tall and one short, one in front and one behind, were looking at the same arrest warrant. It was a rather comical sight. Still looking? The Formation Elder was proud of his age as he glared at Wang Chong through the thin paper. I won't look. I won't look. Wang Chong inwardly chuckled. He had only interacted with the Formation Elder for a short while, but Wang Chong had gradually come to realize that although the Formation Elder's mouth was unforgiving, he wasn't a bad person at heart. But because of his height, he was extremely sensitive to anyone's gaze, no matter where they looked, as long as they looked at him. At least you know what's good for you. Only then did the Formation Elder look away. Up ahead is the rough area indicated on the treasure map. Because the treasure map is incomplete and lacks enough information, we can only determine a rough area for now, but it's still more than 1,000 square kilometers. If we can't further shrink this area, we might not be able to find it even if we searched for 10 years. There are crooks and honest folk mixed in here, and all sorts of people are here. I've already set up a base up ahead, and from there, we can get a good view of the entire area. All of you, come with me. We'll stay there for a while and avoid your enemies. In addition, there are so many people pursuing you, so don't drag this old man down with you. Disguise yourselves for me. As the Formation Elder spoke, he suddenly walked up to a pine tree and extended a hand. Under the confused gazes of Wang Chong's group, he took out a bundle and tossed it over. Let's go, Wang Chong said. Here are a few sets of clothes from the martial arts world. Although they're all from small sects and few people know of them, they're enough to disguise yourselves. At this sight, even Wang Chong had to admit defeat. It was apparent that the formation elder was extremely familiar with this place, and he had already made all the arrangements before this meeting. This sort of concealment formation seemed to be everywhere, and not even Wang Chong knew what else the formation elder was hiding. Many thanks, Senior. Wang Chong took the bundle. Kid, at least you know how to talk. The group traveled through the forest toward the base the formation elder had set up. It's just up ahead. That green mountain, is it? I've already observed it. Although it's not in the center, it's on high ground. As the saying goes, climb high and look far. Standing there, one could take in most of the terrain. It'll also make it easier for us to move around. Around an hour later, the formation elder smugly pointed ahead. The group unconsciously slowed down at the formation elder's words. Wang Chong raised his head and followed the formation elder's finger. Nearby, he saw a green mountain piercing into the clouds, a striking sight amidst the green mountains. That place truly isn't bad. I should be able to notice any activity very quickly. Wang Chong inwardly praised. The formation elder had truly chosen a good place. As he was thinking, Wang Chong's ears suddenly twitched, and a strange sound rang out in his ear. A few moments later, a harsh shout came from the distance. Who goes there? The Jingqi League is here. Report your names. The voice boomed like thunder. Wang Chong's group turned their heads and saw 5 or 6 youths dressed in white Taoist robes with the image of a yin-yang crane embroidered on their chests. They were treading on the treetops of a nearby mountain as they approached Wang Chong's group. Not good. It's them. Chapter 1366. Zhang Wenfu, old man, hurry and put on your clothes. Leave those people to me. Not many people in the martial arts world understand the sect I've arranged for you. If you're careful, you should be able to fool them. The formation elder was a little uneasy, but he did not hesitate for too long. He strode forward toward those 5 or 6 Jingqi League disciples. Wait a moment. At this moment, a cold and aloof voice came from behind him, suffused with a chilling majesty. The formation elder paused and turned his head in surprise, only to see that the taciturn evil emperor had suddenly stepped forward and brushed past the formation elder. As he stared at those Jingqi League disciples flying over the treetops, the evil emperor's eyes shone with a chilling light. It's just a few insignificant sect disciples. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Back then, when this old man intimidated tens of thousands of sects, even their sect masters didn't dare to breathe loudly in front of this old man. Don't tell me that after a few years, this old man still has to hide in front of a few nameless pawns. Bang! A moment later, under the formation elder's dumbfounded gaze, the evil emperor stopped in front of him, his right index and middle fingers brandishing like swords. With a boom, an astonishing wave of energy soared into the sky. Looking from afar, one could see that the ripples were so dense that they were almost tangible. They were like surging waves that spread out in all directions. Zhang Wenfu, you've gone mad. The formation elder was both shocked and infuriated by this sight. His original intention had been to have the evil emperor hide his identity so that he wouldn't attract the attention of the Jingqi League, but he was doing the exact opposite. If the experts of the Jingqi League swarmed over, they would be in trouble. Don't get angry. See for yourself. The evil emperor indifferently said, his voice devoid of emotion. The formation elder was stunned and subconsciously looked into the distance. In the next moment, under his dazed gaze, the 5 or 6 Jingqi League disciples who were flying toward him suddenly stopped in unison. Looking at the towering shockwave and the location where the evil emperor and the others were standing, they were all bewildered. So. Just when the formation elder thought that they would charge over, the pale-faced group turned around and flew off into the distance, moving even faster than they had come. The formation elder was flabbergasted. In the martial arts world, the weak are prey to the strong. The so-called righteous disciples were also picking on the soft persimmons to pinch. Don't worry, none of them will dare to say a word about what happened today. The evil emperor said calmly. Before anyone could react, his sleeves fluttered as he walked forward. Wait. The formation elder called out and hurriedly followed. Only Wang Chong remained in the back, his brows slightly creased as he watched the Zhengqi League disciples leave, a pensive look on his face. Wang Chong had always interacted with the imperial court and the battlefield, so he knew nothing about the martial arts world and its rules. But there was no doubt that his master, the evil emperor, had taught him a profound lesson. With a flick of his robe, Wang Chong quickly followed. At the top of the mountain, the group stopped. A gentle breeze blew, and a gurgling mist rose from the top of the mountain, creating a cool and refreshing scene. Old scoundrel, you chose the right place this time. The evil emperor and the chief of Wushang glanced at each other and nodded. This place truly isn't bad. Wang Chong walked up to the front and looked around. This was the first time he had clearly seen the geography of this place. The region indicated by the treasure map was to the north of Qixi, between the western Turkic Khaganate and the western regions. The eastern part of this place was filled with green mountains and lush trees. But standing at the top of the mountain and looking to the west, there was a vast expanse of sand on the horizon. Even with the naked eye, one could see rolling heat waves surging over. This was the northern edge of the Mohian Desert. The Mohian Desert was said to be 800 li wide, but the Mohian Desert of this world was much larger than the one in Wang Chong's memories. This area was so desolate that even the cavalry of the western Turkic Khaganate and the tribes of the western regions rarely came here. But as Wang Chong stood on the summit and looked around, he could see that the mountains were getting lower and lower, and many people were moving about in this area. At a glance, Wang Chong could see 30 to 40 banners flying in the air, indicating their identities. Among them, the Zhengqi League's white banner of the Taiji Immortal Crane was the most eye-catching. At a rough glance, he could see that the Zhengqi League had dispatched more than 1,000 disciples. And Wang Chong could sense that the Zhengqi League was filled with experts, and there were 10-some auras among them that even he had to treat with caution. Haha, independent martial artists, sect disciples, and all sorts of other factions. Don't be fooled by their friendly appearances, but in a few days, who knows how many more people will die. At this moment, the Formation Elder walked out from the rear and chuckled. The Formation Elder considered himself to be half a member of the martial arts world, and it was for this reason that he was able to walk together with the fearsome demon of the martial arts world, the evil emperor. Old scoundrel, let's not talk about this. We have important matters to attend to, the evil emperor suddenly said. Ha! The Formation Elder chuckled. This time he did not argue. He walked forward, picked up an unremarkable stone shard, and thrust it into the ground nearby. Hong long long, there was an earth-shattering sound, and ripples spread out in the void. A stone formation that was even larger than the one before immediately appeared in front of everyone. This stone formation was so massive that it was almost the size of a large stone house. The Formation Elder had even spread out a blanket on the ground and placed several tables and chairs within it. Most importantly, the Formation Elder had also prepared a large amount of food, including rations, meat, fruits, and even wine. This was equivalent to a very comfortable little base. Old scoundrel, you're quite considerate. This time, even the evil emperor couldn't help but show a hint of surprise. The Formation Elder had made ample preparations, and based on what he had stocked up, they could probably stay here for 2 or 3 months. The group quickly began to clean up the place, taking out some rations and fruits to replenish their supplies. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the group finally got to the point of their trip. Master, the treasure map of the Supreme and Infinite Origin Immortal Art is both real and fake. Many people have found the treasure map over the years, but not a single one has found the treasury. Are you sure that this is the place? Wang Chong pulled out the cork and drank a mouthful of water. Finally, he asked the question on his mind. Although Wang Chong was confident that the treasure map he had given his master was real, finding it was one thing, unraveling its secrets was another. Even now, Wang Chong was unable to confirm that this was the place indicated on the treasure map. Kid, you don't understand. The Supreme and Infinite Origin Immortal Art? What does the infinite in it mean? Limitless refers to the universe. The Formation Elder fiercely wiped away the wine stains on his beard and began to flaunt his seniority. Look carefully. To the west is the Mohian Desert, a place filled with barren sand and roiling heat. It is a place of yang. The eastern region is covered in green mountains, a land of cool shade. In terms of feng shui, it corresponds to the word infinite in the origin immortal sect. This is a little yin-yang layout. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. In terms of the overall layout, the eastern region is yang while the western region is yin. This is a great yin-yang layout. Little yin-yang and great yin-yang reverse each other, resonating with the yin and yang of feng shui. When the two come together, this is the true great yin-yang layout. More importantly, if you look carefully, you will realize that the border between the desert and the green mountains is the boundary between yin and yang. As the formation elder spoke, he drew Ans on the ground. If I were the origin immortal sect, I would never let go of such a great yin-yang layout. Moreover, this is the place indicated on the treasure map. Thus, no matter what, the supreme and infinite origin immortal art has to be hidden here. It's just that this place is so dangerous that we don't know where it is. Wang Chong was surprised. The formation elder seemed to be not just skilled in formations, but also skilled in feng shui and geography. Little yin-yang, great yin-yang, great yin-yang, great yin-yang, great yin-yang, great yin-yang layout. A naturally formed great yin-yang layout like this should logically be a place rich in spiritual energy. If you cultivate here, you'll get twice the result with half the effort. But if you sense for yourselves, there isn't any dense spiritual energy in the surroundings. If my guess is right, someone must have used some special method to draw it over and use it for something else. If my guess is right, it must be some sort of concealment formation, so the supreme and infinite origin immortal art has to be here. The formation elder firmly declared. Wang Chong fell silent, a pensive look on his face. He had been abducted by his master on this journey to the northwest, so Wang Chong had always been doubtful that the supreme and infinite origin immortal art was here. But now that he heard the formation elder say this, he was 70 to 80% convinced. The formation elder might not be as skilled as his master, and he might not be able to understand the contents of the treasure map, but his analysis of formations and geography was much more convincing than that of a simple treasure map. Chong, I've discussed this with the village chief. Last time we were here, there was one place we hadn't explored yet. It was a strange formation, and only you, Senior Zhou, knew its secrets. Only by investigating it can we know what to do next. In a little while, I'll stand guard over Senior Zhou and take him to investigate. After that, we can meet up and discuss what to do next. Chapter 1367. Your disciple understands. Do as Master says. Wang Chong's words were meaningless. He had never been to this place before, so he naturally wasn't familiar with it. On the other hand, his master and the chief of Wushang had come here several times and were extremely familiar with this place. This place was a mix of good and bad, and it would not be good to rashly go out. The evil emperor nodded and then turned to the chief of Wushang. Village chief, Chonger's injuries haven't healed yet. They'll flare up once every 20 hours. In a while, you should stay in the formation and take care of him. When they flare up, help him unwind the chaotic stellar energy in his body. The chief of Wushang said nothing, only gave a slight nod. The evil emperor sighed in relief. He and the formation elder had many reasons for traveling alone, the most important of which was because they couldn't let go of this final disciple they had taken in. Wang Chong's injuries had stabilized, and as long as he didn't fight for more than an hour, he would be fine. But the cultivation defect of the great yin-yang heaven creation art was no simple matter. Even though Wang Chong was careful not to recklessly use his stellar energy, it would still flare up once every 20 hours, and when it did, it would be like being cut by a knife. If he encountered a powerful opponent, it would be even more fatal. This was why the evil emperor had the chief of Wushang stay behind to take care of him. Sush, sush. A few moments later, the demonic emperor old man and the formation elder, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, flew away from the formation like birds, vanishing into the distance. Wang Chong only glanced at them before stabbing a stone into the ground. Rumble. The surrounding stone formation once more began to move, quickly concealing Wang Chong's group and vanishing like bubbles. Wang Chong hid himself in the stone array and quickly sat down cross-legged to regulate his breathing. The chaotic, heterogeneous stellar energy flowed slowly in his body according to a certain pattern, then slowly excreted through his meridians. To Wang Chong, suppressing the injuries from the great yin-yang heaven creation art and sorting out the nearly 1,000 different types of stellar energy in his body was the most pressing matter at hand. Time passed slowly. It was quiet inside the stone array. Wang Chong sat cross-legged and cultivated alone, while the chief of Wushang sat next to him to protect him. About 4 hours later, almost there, the chief of Wushang looked up at the sky and thought to himself. Almost at the same time, the chief of Wushang heard a muffled groan. Lowering his head, he saw that Wang Chong, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, had a pained expression on his face. His face turned slightly pale, and tiny beads of cold sweat slowly seeped out from his forehead. Zizi. At this moment, there was a faint sound. A vein on Wang Chong's exposed neck suddenly bulged, writhing like an earthworm. It gave off the impression that it was some kind of living creature. This thick meridian extended to other parts of his body, appearing extremely bizarre. It's flared up. The chief of Wushang was well aware that this was caused by the stellar energy in Wang Chong's body that had gone berserk. Every time a certain period of time passed, the heterogeneous stellar energy that Wang Chong had suppressed would gather in a certain place and flare up. Moreover, the flare-up was extremely painful. At this time, Wang Chong basically had no ability to resist. Thump! With a thought from the chief of Wushang, a thin and withered hand extended out of his wide sleeve and pressed against Wang Chong's back. At the same time, a vast and mellow stellar energy surged out, surging into Wang Chong's body like a river. This enormous energy followed a certain path, swiftly helping Wang Chong calm his berserk stellar energy. Wang Chong's face grew paler and paler, and his breathing grew ragged. It was obvious that this flare-up of stellar energy had reached a critical juncture. The chief of Wushang frowned and increased the output of stellar energy. Wisps of white shenqi slowly rose from his head. Time slowly passed, and the chief of Wushang's face began to sweat. The great yin-yang heaven creation art was known as one of the 10 great arts in the world, and its flare-up was extremely fierce. Even the chief of Wushang had to expend a great deal of energy. About a quarter of an hour later, Wang Chong's breathing gradually calmed. The chief of Wushang let out a deep breath and slowly withdrew his palm. In that moment, he had already helped Wang Chong get through the most dangerous part. Now, Wang Chong could deal with it himself. Time slowly passed, and the stone array finally returned to normal. After some time, "Village chief, many thanks." Wang Chong slowly opened his eyes and said. The chief of Wushang only smiled and shook his head. "It's good that you were able to endure it. This technique is too dangerous, and you should avoid fighting with others as much as possible. There's also one more thing I want to tell you." As the chief of Wushang spoke, he raised his head and glanced at the sky, a hint of worry in his eyes. "Something's not right. Before leaving, your master and the formation elder told me that a round trip would take 4 to 6 hours at most, but your master and the others are already 4 hours late. Your master has always been punctual, and this sort of situation would never have occurred unless something unexpected had happened. So I'm preparing to go and take a look. I'll go with you. This way we can look after each other." Hearing this, Wang Chong immediately stood up. Wang Chong also felt that something was wrong. His master had always been punctual, so there was no reason for him to be late. "There's no need." The chief of Wushang shook his head. "Your injuries haven't healed, and the great yin-yang heaven creation art has only just flared up. It's not a good time for you to get into a fight. Moreover, I'm a lone wolf, so if something really does happen, I can adapt to it." The chief of Wushang waved his hand. There was one more thing he did not say. What he and the evil emperor were most worried about were those mysterious men in black. The longer Wang Chong stayed outside, the greater the risk of being discovered. On the other hand, the formation elder's formation could conceal one's aura, and there was plenty of food and water here, making it much safer for him to stay here. This, after a few moments of hesitation, Wang Chong finally nodded. "Then let's do as senior says." Wang Chong was well aware that it was truly not a good time for him to get into a fight. Wait here for a moment. I'll quickly return after finding your master. After giving some instructions, the chief of Wushang opened the stone formation and flew down the mountain. Since he was already here, Wang Chong thought for a few moments before sitting down cross-legged and silently cultivating, trying to recover his strength as quickly as possible. As the sky darkened, and with no sign of the chief of Wushang or his master, Wang Chong began to feel uneasy. I don't know where they went. There's still no news. Alas, I'm not familiar with this area. Just when Wang Chong was getting more and more worried and preparing to go out to investigate, a woman's shout came from the distance. Wang Chong turned in that direction and saw a girl of 18 or 19, dressed in snow-white clothes and wielding a sword. Her hair was disheveled as she made her way toward the summit. Behind her, a few men with sinister expressions were in hot pursuit. Songyun, you can't escape. These men had vicious expressions on their faces, and their speed was as smooth as flowing water. Wang Chong was one of the top experts in the world, and his martial arts were extremely diverse. His vision and experience were naturally extremely high, and although he had learned such supreme lightness arts in the army, they were far inferior to these people in terms of subtlety. And for some reason, these people's attacks were filled with a sinister aura, giving off the feeling that they weren't righteous. They're from the evil path. A thought flashed through Wang Chong's mind, and he immediately understood. You guys go left, you guys go right. Activate the formation. No matter what, we can't let that little slut escape. Looking at the beautiful girl in white running up the mountain, a young man who seemed to have a high status in the back had a cold look in his eyes. He raised his hands and feet and quickly made changes. The five of them spread out and turned into an invisible net that pounced towards the girl. Cling-clang. In just a few moments, the 5 evil path disciples had caught up to the girl. With great teamwork, they cut off her path of retreat and forced their way up the mountain. As for the white-clothed girl, she parried left and right, displaying the 3-foot-long sword in her hand to the extreme. Every time, she was able to block the joint attack of the opponent by a hair's breadth. But even so, she was in a perilous situation. She was drenched in sweat, her breathing ragged. If this continued, defeat was only a matter of time. Wei Changding, you'll die a horrible death. For a treasure map, your Black Insect killed 4 of our martial brothers. Are you not afraid of the revenge of our Jingqi League? Others might be afraid of your Jingqi League, but we aren't. If you have something to say, just say it to the 5 ancestors. Song Yuren, no one has ever escaped the people the ancestors want. Just obediently give yourself up. Wei Changting indifferently said. Ever since the establishment of the Jingqi League, the evil path had lost the suppression of the demonic emperor and was incapable of contending against the Jingqi League. Right now, the only one left was the 5 Ancestor Alliance. Song Yuran had a special status, and they had spent a great deal of effort in order to capture her. They had set up a trap for her for 5 days and 5 nights, waiting for this opportunity. No matter what, they could not let her escape. Songyun, if we weren't afraid of injuring you and losing an arm or a leg, you would have already died to our swords. Obediently give yourself up and don't ask for trouble. In any case, in the end, you'll still fall into our hands. Impudent! Song Yuran stared angrily at the youth in the lead. Chapter 1368. Ever since the establishment of the Jingqi League, the evil path had lost the suppression of the demonic emperor and was incapable of contending against the Jingqi League. Right now, the only one left was the 5 Ancestor Alliance. Song Yuran had a special status, and they had spent a great deal of effort to capture her. They had planned for her for 5 days and 5 nights, waiting for this opportunity. No matter what, they could not let her escape. Songyun, if we weren't afraid of injuring you and losing an arm or a leg, you would have already died to our swords. Obediently surrender and don't ask for trouble. In any case, in the end, you'll still end up in our hands. Impudent! Song Yuran stared angrily at the youth in the lead. Wei Changting, you truly are the scum of our righteous path. In order to obtain greater power, You sold out your master and martial uncles and joined the evil path. These evil path disciples rape and pillage, committing all sorts of crimes. You're just like them. If you end up in your hands, your life will be worse than death. Even if I, Song Yuran, die, I won't let you get what you want. The girl gripped her sword and placed it in front of her, her expression furious and sorrowful. Song Yuran's words caused the man called Wei Changting to turn red. Song Yuran, I only showed mercy time and time again because we knew each other, but you really refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Since that's the case, don't blame us. Let's go together. As long as we leave her with half a breath, there's no need to worry about anything else. With these words, Wei Changting's sword trembled as he charged at Song Yuran. Clang. Wei Changting's attack was vicious, his first strike swift and vicious, going straight for the girl's left chest. Kree. As Wei Changting attacked, black energy roiled around him, transforming into ghosts that howled and screeched. The sound was enough to make one's mind dizzy and vexed. The soul assimilating art. Wang Chong was in a daze inside the stone formation. He glanced at it and recognized it immediately. Back on the Spirit Vein Mountain, although his master, the evil emperor, rarely talked to Wang Chong about the world of sex, perhaps because he was afraid that Wang Chong would one day encounter someone from the sex, or perhaps because he was afraid that Wang Chong would suffer at the hands of those people. When he taught Wang Chong martial arts, he would always mention some of the martial arts of the sex, whether intentionally or unintentionally, so Wang Chong was able to recognize them. At a glance. The greatest characteristic of the soul-assimilating art was that it could seize a person's soul and disturb their state of mind. At the same time, it could interfere with the circulation of stellar energy. It was extremely famous in the world of sections. Countless sect disciples paled at the mention of this cultivation technique, and they were extremely fearful of it. However, its master, the evil emperor, did not think much of it. The descendants of the demonic emperor's bloodline had always disdained to use this sort of half-baked martial arts. When they fought, they would always forcefully seize the other party's power. Just as Wang Chong was pondering this, the two sides had already begun fighting fiercely. With a ripping sound, a bloody wound immediately appeared on the white-clothed girl's body. 1, 2, 3, the white-clothed girl's body was drenched in sweat, and more wounds appeared on her body. Heh, this damned woman is truly shrewish. Once you fall into our hands, we'll let you have a good time first, and then we'll hand you over to the ancestor. Let's see how stubborn you can be then. One of the evil path disciples next to Wei Changting sneered. The stellar energy in his body exploded, and he actually went straight for the girl's lower body. Bastard! The girl was both shocked and angry, and she became more and more flustered. Just as he was about to fall into the hands of those 5 corrupt disciples, a handsome voice rang out in his ears. Senior brother Long Chen, you're a corrupt disciple. Reverse the flow of Zhenqi, lock the Yang Pass, Imperial Palace. Step on the Ken position, attack the chest center, Zifu. This voice had come so suddenly that it was filled with a convincing power. It made one unconsciously feel a sense of closeness and dependence, like they were back in the sect, when their senior brothers taught them martial arts. At this moment when she was on the verge of exhaustion, Song Yuran almost instinctively responded to that voice like a welcome shower. Stepping on the can position, she slanted her body and attacked the chest center acupoint of the evil path disciple on her right. Swish! There was the sound of a sharp blade stabbing into flesh. The evil path disciple instinctively circulated his evil path stellar energy in an attempt to shake off Song Yuran's sword. But the arts of the Zhenqi League had a certain stellar energy piercing effect. Before that evil path disciple could fully execute his technique, the sword had already pierced through his chest center acupoint, the bloody tip of the sword piercing through his back. How could this be? The evil path disciple gripped the sword in front of his chest with both hands as his knees buckled and he collapsed to the ground. Even in his death, he didn't dare to believe that he would be killed by a completely exhausted righteous path disciple even when there were 5 of them. Let alone the others, even Song Yuran was shocked to see an evil path disciple end his life with a single strike. Who goes there? Come out. Wei Changting and the others drew their swords and retreated in unison, their gazes vigilantly scanning their surroundings. But despite the howling wind, there was nothing around them. Boom! Wei Changting's sword-like eyebrows furrowed, and a cold light suddenly flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then, without thinking, waves of gang qi suddenly burst out, like a rain of swords, explosively shooting in all directions. Ding ding ding. Song Yuren's face was ghastly pale as she swung her sword. Silver-white stellar energy that seemed like ice and snow shot out of her sword, scattering the evil path stellar energy. But Wei Changting's gaze was not on her. He quickly scanned the surroundings, but it was quiet and no one had appeared. Impossible! We're already so close to the mountain range that there's nowhere to hide. If there was someone, I wouldn't have missed them, but… Wei Changting was shocked. He had traveled the martial arts world for so long, but this was the first time he had encountered such a situation. Young Master Wei, I'll go to the other side of the mountain. He might be hiding there. One of the evil path disciples said. There's no need. Wei Changting thought for a moment and then shook his head. There's no need to go to so much trouble. I have a way to make him show himself. Wei Changting's gaze quickly focused on Song Yuren. Song Yuren, you asked for this. Even if your Zhengqi League's people arrive, they won't be able to save you today. Wei Changting's aura suddenly changed. In a flash of light, a thick black energy exploded out of his body, and Wei Changting's entire face was immediately shrouded in roiling black energy. Screech! Tens of thousands of ghosts howled, and the black qi behind him transformed into ghost soldiers and ghost generals. Wei Changting seemed to have transformed into a demon, and his aura became extremely dangerous and sharp. Demon ghost art. Song Yuren paled at this sight. This demon ghost art was famous in the martial arts world. It was an extremely cruel and evil art. When cultivating it, one needed to go to piles of corpses and mass graves to absorb the yin qi, fiendish energy, and death energy of the dead. In addition, one needed the blood of 49 martial artists in order to successfully cultivate it. Once used, it was extremely powerful. Song Yuren, let's see who can save you now. Wei Changting's entire body was shrouded in black energy, making him seem human yet not human, like a ghost yet not a ghost, like a demon yet not a demon. His fingers spread open, and with a shrill howl, a massive demonic claw clawed at Song Yuren. The claw, wrapped in yin energy, transformed into countless skulls that lunged at Song Yuren. Not good. Song Yuren paled at this sight. Once the demon ghost art was used, one's speed, strength, and all other aspects would be greatly boosted. In her current state, there was no way she could block it. Step on the Qian position and walk on the Li position. Profound sun seals the heavens. Flying willow catkin. Radiant sun rises from the east. At this moment, that familiar voice once more rang out in Song Yuren's ear. In this moment of life and death, Song Yuren instinctively gathered her stellar energy and stepped on the Qian position. She dodged the edge of Wei Changting's demon claw by a hair and cut into the gap between the two fingers. Then, she moved from the Qian position to the Li position, dodging Wei Changting's attack like a bolt of lightning. Profound sun seals the heavens. With a shout, Song Yuren stabbed forward with her sword. With the sound of tearing silk, Wei Changting's thick evil energy was torn apart like paper. Stab at the weak point of his stellar energy. Song Yuren was shocked and then overjoyed. Although Wei Changting was powerful, she had clearly stabbed at the weakest point of his stellar energy. It was like two streams of water converging together. By following the gap between the two streams, it would be abnormally easy to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Swish! Before Wei Changting could react, his left arm was struck by a sword, causing him to stumble back in shock, his face looking like he had seen a ghost. Many thanks, Senior. Song Yuren was instantly invigorated. With a thought, she immediately used her second move, Flying Willow Catkin. A sharp and condensed sword qi shot toward Wei Changting's armpit, left abdomen, and dantian. Swish! The sword qi shot forward, leaving a bloody hole the size of a finger in Wei Changting's left shoulder. Wei Changting had blocked two of the sword qi, but he had not been able to avoid Song Yuren's lightning-fast third strike. Young Master Wei. Seeing this, the surrounding corrupt path disciples were all shocked. Like ghosts, they attacked Song Yuran from all directions. Water-cleaving saber. Tiger's roar, dragon's roar. That handsome voice lost no time, resounding through the air once more. Swish. A cold light flashed, and 3 evil path disciples cried out in alarm as they hastily retreated. One of them even had his clothes cut open by Song Yuran, leaving a deep cut on his body and almost having his intestines cut open. At this moment, everyone looked at Song Yuran like she was a ghost, not daring to act rashly. Even Wei Changting appeared apprehensive. He had originally believed that with his strength and the demon ghost art, he would be able to easily capture Song Yuran, but it now seemed that even if he was stronger, he would still find it difficult to capture Song Yuran. May I ask which senior is here? This junior is the Black Yin Sect's Wei Changting, and my master is the Black Yin Ancestor. This is a matter between our Black Yin Sect and the Jingqi League. I hope that senior will not interfere. Raising his robe, Wei Changting suddenly clasped his hands and bowed respectfully in the direction behind Song Yuran. Chapter 1369. What Black Yin Ancestor? Get out of my sight. Wang Chong said from within the stone array. He had no understanding of the factions of the martial arts world, and he had never even heard of the Black Yin Ancestor. Wei Changting's mention of the Black Yin Ancestor's name was pointless. Wei Changting's face alternated between green and white at Wang Chong's words. The Black Yin Ancestor was like the noon sun in the martial arts world, and even the members of the Jingqi League had to fear him. This person's rude words were truly impudent to the extreme. But one had to lower one's head, and this person had an extremely powerful background. Wei Changting did not dare to be impudent and could only endure it. Since senior is determined to interfere, then Changting has nothing to say. Let's go. Wei Changting said as he retreated with a vigilant expression, guarding against any possible attack from his opponent. After retreating 50-some steps and seeing no reaction from the mountain, the group breathed a sigh of relief. He hurriedly turned around and dashed out without looking back. Let's go. A few moments later, they had vanished without a trace. Once Wei Changting's group had left, the mountain fell silent. Song Yuran's breathing was ragged, her eyes wide as she looked around, not daring to let down her guard. Senior, many thanks for saving my life. Song Yuran respectfully bowed in the direction of the voice. Although it looked like a bow, her head was still slightly raised, her eyes constantly scanning the area as if trying to find Wang Chong's position. Seeing this sight from within the stone formation, Wang Chong chuckled inwardly. This girl was not as simple as she looked. Senior, this junior is Song Yuran, a disciple of the Jingqi League. Would it be possible for senior to come out and meet so that Yuran can personally thank you? Song Yuran deferentially said. There's no need. You can go. Saving you was a simple matter, so there's no need to thank me. Wang Chong said from within the stone formation. Since senior doesn't like it, then this junior, As Song Yuran spoke, she suddenly frowned and her body went limp. Her face pale, she staggered 2 steps before collapsing to the ground, unconscious. Not good. Wang Chong's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect the woman to lose so much blood and faint at this moment. With no time to think, Wang Chong charged out of the stone formation and grabbed Song Yuran's wrist. But to Wang Chong's surprise, the moment he charged over, Song Yuran, who had been lying on the ground, revealed a crafty smile. The moment Wang Chong grabbed her wrist, Song Yuran reached out and grabbed Wang Chong's wrist. Senior, please forgive this junior. In the next moment, Song Yuran's eyes went wide as she saw this handsome youth of 18 or 19, though he seemed a little thin and weak. She'd thought of many things, but she'd never imagined that the unfathomable senior she'd imagined was actually a handsome young man with sharp eyebrows and white teeth. Moreover, his face was pale and his aura was in disarray. There was no way he was a senior of the martial arts world. Who are you? Song Yuran subconsciously asked, her eyes wide. You lied to me. Upon seeing Song Yuran's appearance, Wang Chong immediately understood. He slowly put down his wrist and stood up. Since Mrs. Fine, I'll be leaving first. Wang Chong had been rather worried about his master's group, so he had only intervened on occasion. He didn't want to involve himself too much with them. Wait. But just when Wang Chong was about to leave, he heard a woman's groan behind him. Wang Chong's lips curved into a smile. He had already suffered once, so he wouldn't fall for it a second time. Miss, there's no need to pretend. You should hurry back. The night wind howled through the mountains, but even as Wang Chong's voice echoed, there was no response. Wang Chong paused and turned his head. He saw that Song Yuran was pale and motionless on the ground. Even her breathing was much weaker, and her body was covered in blood. Wang Chong grimaced as he finally realized that she hadn't been lying to him this time. Swoosh! With a wave of his robes, Wang Chong hurriedly flew over. At the same time, he took out a snow-white pill the size of a pigeon egg and fed it into the girl's mouth. After that, he sent a stream of stellar energy through her to treat her wounds. You saved me. After some time, Song Yuran finally woke up, her complexion much better. You suffered very serious internal injuries, but I've already treated them for you. Wang Chong indifferently said, somewhat absent-mindedly lost in his thoughts. Thank you. Song Yuran sincerely said, a hint of apology in her eyes. Although she had only wanted to draw out Wang Chong and had no evil intentions, she had still deceived him. In a little while, when you've mostly recovered, you can leave. Wang Chong indifferently said, seeming to keep her at arm's length. Song Yuran did not get angry at Wang Chong's words. If he were an old senior, she would have treated him with great respect, but this youth seemed to be around her age, so she was instantly rather curious. Song Yuran examined Wang Chong's back, her eyes flashing with many thoughts. You're looking for that guard? Is that right? At this moment, Song Yuran suddenly spoke. Wang Chong frowned and turned his head. A hidden sharpness and knowledge of all martial arts. Your young master Qingyang, Zhong Shuiyun. Am I right? Song Yuran suddenly smiled, a hint of craftiness in her eyes. Although she said, am I right, her expression seemed to confirm Wang Chong's identity. For a moment, Wang Chong was dumbfounded. He had already said that Song Yuran would leave once her injuries were healed, but he had not expected her to say such a thing. But when he saw Song Yuran's expression of, I've seen through you, you can't hide anything from me, Wang Chong immediately realized that this girl had clearly misunderstood him, associating him with young master Qingyang Zhong Shuiyun of the martial arts world. I guessed right, didn't I? Song Yuran had a smug look on her face, feeling that she had the upper hand in her clash with Wang Chong. It's said in the martial arts world that young master Qingyang Zhong Shuiyun is well-read and knows all martial arts. Whether it's righteous or evil, he knows the weaknesses of all martial arts like the back of his hand. He can tell at a glance where an opponent's weakness is, but he was born missing one of the 9 sons. Despite his extraordinary talent, his martial arts aren't very high. It's because of this unique ability that he's known as the leader of the 4 young masters of the world. Moreover, he keeps a low profile and rarely interacts with the major sects, so his movements are secretive and almost no one recognizes him. The only thing he could identify was the guard beside him who was highly skilled in martial arts. You got separated from him, didn't you? You didn't leave because you were waiting for him. Did I guess right? At this point, Song Yuran smiled. This strange fellow was truly unreasonable, but the more he was like this, the more she wanted to guess at his identity. She had thought about it for a very long time before finally realizing who Wang Chong was, young master Qingyang Zhong Shuiyun. The two of them were far too similar. Both were low-key, both mysterious, and both unreasonable. Moreover, with just a few words, they were able to instruct the weak to defeat the strong and powerful. Most importantly, the two of them were equally young. Truly too young. On the other side, Wang Chong said nothing, but his eyes shifted. Interesting. This thought suddenly flitted through Wang Chong's mind. He had been just about ready to send this girl away, but now he was getting a little interested. It was clear that she had mistaken him for someone else, but he had never imagined that there would be someone in the martial arts world who was similar to him. Moreover, it seemed like this person was just like him, able to instruct someone to defeat an even stronger opponent with just a few words. I didn't say that. Wang Chong indifferently said. I know that you don't want others to know. Relax, I won't tell anyone. Song Yuran mischievously winked at Wang Chong. But young master, now that the Origin Immortal Palace has appeared, this place is a jumble of fish and dragons, and many factions have gathered here. Young master might not be safe if you are alone. Why don't you come with me to the Jingqi League? With the protection of our Jingqi League, no one will dare to attack young master, and young master will be much safer. In addition, our Jingqi League has many members. Perhaps we can help young master find that guard of yours. Song Yuran's eyes were bright as she did her utmost to persuade Wang Chong. Although young master Qingyang wasn't very skilled in martial arts, he was extremely well-read and was the leader of the 4 young masters. Any sect that could recruit him would receive a massive boost in strength. Just a few words of advice from him might be enough to raise the strength of their disciples. Who knew how many sects in the world of sects wanted to recruit him into their sects? Song Yuran had never imagined that she would encounter this mysterious young master Qingyang here. If she could find a way to introduce this young master Qingyang to the elders and have him join the Jingqi League, he would be of enormous assistance to the entire league. Wang Chong said nothing, only pretended to think. I know that young master likes to explore secrets. Now that the Origin Immortal Mountain has appeared, I can have the experts of the league lead young master to explore the Origin Immortal Treasury. Song Yuran saw that Wang Chong was tempted and immediately added fuel to the fire. The entire martial arts world knew that young master Qingyang had no interest in the affairs of the martial arts world, but he liked to visit famous mountains and great rivers, as well as the various dangerous and legendary places of the martial arts world. Young master Qingyang's sudden appearance here clearly meant that he was headed for the treasury of the Origin Immortal Mountain. The words Origin Immortal Mountain caused Wang Chong's heart to tremble in shock. He had only been considering the matter at first, but Song Yuran's words immediately stirred his heart. Whether it was in my last life or this one, the martial arts world has always been extremely far away from me, and it's rare for me to run into one. I might as well take a stroll with her. First, I can understand the situation in the martial arts world, and second, I remember that the Formation Elders said that Master's greatest enemy is the Righteous Alliance Lord. It's good to sneak in and get a feel for the enemy, and I can also get a feel for the Origin Immortal Mountain. Although everyone in the world knew of the King of Foreign Lands, the world of sects was completely different. The Imperial Court and the world of sects were 2 completely different worlds, and the 2 rarely intersected. Thus, Wang Chong's identity as young master Qingyang actually posed little danger. That's fine. Wang Chong finally agreed. Wonderful. Song Yuran immediately clenched her fists, a look of joy on her face. Chapter 1370. As they traveled, Wang Chong learned a great deal about the martial arts world from Song Yuran. As his interactions with her deepened, Wang Chong gradually realized that while Song Yuran was a straightforward person and could be a little crafty at times, she did not have a bad heart. Hasn't there been no news of the supreme and infinite Origin Immortal art in the last few centuries? The martial arts world has even publicly acknowledged that this art has been lost, so how did it suddenly appear? And even the Origin Immortal Mountain found it and attracted so many experts? Wang Chong asked as he traveled with Song Yuran. In truth, we're also curious. Logically speaking, the fewer people who know about this sort of astonishing treasure, the better, but there are so many people gathered here. But I've also learned that someone recently found the treasure map to the real Origin Immortal Palace and followed it all the way here. But that person wasn't careful enough and was seen by someone else. Or perhaps his enemies found out and intentionally leaked the news so that they could use someone else to do their dirty work. This sort of thing is all too common in the martial arts world. Song Yuran knew that young master Qingyang did not understand the martial arts world very well, so she patiently explained. But unlike other factions, our Jingqi League did not appear here purely for the Origin Immortal Palace. Wang Chong raised his head and gave Song Yuran a surprised glance. Does young master know of the demonic emperor, the #1 expert of the evil path who terrified everyone? Song Yuran asked. Of course. Wang Chong faintly smiled. It's good that you know. Back then, the demonic emperor could be said to have run amok, killing people like flies. He had a ruthless personality, and there was no one in the martial arts world who did not fear him. Later on, through a series of coincidences, the various major sects joined hands and finally managed to kill this demon of the evil path. But not long ago, someone saw him with their own eyes. This demon of the evil path is still alive, and he has appeared in this region. Our Jingqi League is the leader of the world, a role model for the world. No matter what, we have to eliminate this devil of the corrupt path so that no one else will be tormented by him again. Song Yuran's expression was stern, and as she spoke, her expression became incomparably stern. Although she was clever and would occasionally play some tricks, Song Yuran was never careless when it came to matters of right and wrong. Wang Chong didn't say anything, but he was deep in thought. In the past, her master had been ruthless and had killed many people. Song Yuran had not wrongly accused her master, but her master had changed a great deal and was no longer that ruthless person of the past. Moreover, a teacher for a day was a father for life. If someone wanted to deal with his master, Wang Chong would never agree. "We're almost there." As she spoke, Song Yuran raised her head to the summit. Wang Chong followed her gaze and saw a 60 to 70 meter tall mountain range in front of him. There were flags everywhere on the mountain range, all of which had the image of a Tai Chi immortal crane. At the top of the mountain, there was a flag more than 20 meters tall fluttering in the wind. On the mountain, there was a sentry post every 5 or 6 meters, and countless Jingqi League disciples were warily observing their surroundings, ready to strike at any moment. As Wang Chong and Song Yuran examined the mountain, the Jingqi League disciples also noticed them. "Senior sister!" A loud shout suddenly rang out. A youth of 17 or 18, about the same age as Wang Chong, excitedly left his post and rushed toward the pair. "Little Yi!" When Song Yuran saw this disciple, she also sped up the mountain. "Heh!" Wang Chong only faintly smiled at this sight, but he did not follow. This Jingqi League truly lives up to its reputation as the #1 league in the world. It's truly powerful. Wang Chong carefully observed his surroundings. There were at least 500 to 600 disciples of the Jingqi League on this temporary base. Wang Chong roughly sensed that there were more than 300 disciples at the profound martial realm and 40 to 50 imperial martial realm experts. As for Saint martial realm experts, there were 17 or 18. And it was clear that this was not the full strength of the Jingqi League. In the army, profound martial realm experts could serve as ordinary generals, imperial martial realm experts were outstanding generals, and Saint martial realm experts were people on Shi Yuanqing's level. For so many experts to be gathered on a small mountain in the northwest was an astonishing sight even to Wang Chong. Everyone says that the martial arts world is filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons, and the Jingqi League is just a microcosm of the martial arts world. If they've already brought so many experts from the northwest, one can easily imagine how many martial artists there are in the martial arts world. Wang Chong mentally sighed. At this point, Wang Chong couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret. The martial artists of the martial arts world were lone wolves, a completely different world from the imperial court. Successive dynasties had tried to recruit these martial artists, but all of them had ended in failure. Otherwise, everything would have been different. "Who is that?" As he was thinking, Wang Chong suddenly heard a voice. He raised his head and saw that halfway up the mountain, Song Yuran and the Jingqi League disciple were looking at him. "Young Master Qingyang, come quickly." Song Yuran waved at Wang Chong. "What? He's young Master Qingyang." The Jingqi League disciple cried out in alarm, his face stricken with disbelief. Wang Chong faintly smiled, and with a wave of his robe, he began to make his way up the mountain. "Young Master Qingyang? You're young Master Qingyang?" The youth circled around Wang Chong in shock, his face stricken with disbelief. "You don't dare to believe it, right? I didn't dare to believe it either when I first met him. Young Master Qingyang's guard went missing, so I invited him to our Jingqi League to stay for a while. It's enough for you to know about this matter, but don't let too many people know." Song Yuran giggled. In truth, she had also been shocked and surprised when she first heard the news. Right, young master, this is my younger brother, Song Ju. He's an admirer of yours, and he's been nagging me about wanting to meet you. Song Yuran chuckled. On the side, Wang Chong silently smiled at this pair of siblings. Junior sister, has a guest come to our Jingqi League? As the three of them were speaking, a cold and aloof voice came down from the mountain like a peal of thunder. A few moments later, swish, a figure leaped down from the summit like a large bird, and then turned in midair, drawing a beautiful arc as it plummeted from a height of 50 to 60 meters. Boom! In a flash of light, a figure dropped from the sky, crashing down 5 or 6 meters from Wang Chong's group. In an instant, the mountain range trembled and dust billowed. An enormous aura erupted from the snow-white figure, majestic and powerful like a hurricane. Choking on the dust, the youth called Song Ju couldn't help but cough, his face turning red. Song Yuran, on the other hand, took several steps back, warily staring at the man who had suddenly appeared. Ji Andu, what do you think you're doing? Song Yuran clenched her fists and spread her feet apart, one in front and one in back. Her entire body was like a taut bow, ready to strike at any moment. Junior sister, where did you go? This trip to the northwest is fraught with danger. I sent people to protect you, but you refused. If something happened, what would I have done? Also, who is this brother? Why have I never seen him before? A voice came from the churning dust. As the man spoke, he suddenly turned to Wang Chong, his long and narrow eyes flashing with astonishing killing intent. Wang Chong was stunned by this killing intent, but he quickly understood and couldn't help but laugh. If his guess was right, he had inexplicably become a rival in love. Wang Chong imperceptibly took 2 steps back. He had only come to the Jingqi League with Song Yuran to investigate the Jingqi League, as well as the whereabouts of his master and the supreme and infinite origin immortal art. As for anything else, he had no desire to get involved. But a moment later, Wang Chong sensed a strange sensation from the man's body, and he immediately grimaced. Ji Andu, who needs your protection? Who I bring and who I make friends with is my freedom. It's none of your business. Song Yuran angrily said, clearly enraged by this man called Ji Andu. Junior sister, don't say such angry words. I am a protector of the Jingqi League and the Alliance Lord's disciple. I have the right to investigate any suspicious person in the League. Moreover, the elders have already given their approval to our matter, so why must you resist me? The man held his hands behind his back and raised his head, exuding a lofty and arrogant aura as he spoke. Don't speak nonsense. This is no suspicious person. This is the leader of the 4 young masters, young Master Qingyang. At this moment, a sharp voice came from the side. Song Ju clenched his fists and spoke. Young Master Qingyang. Ji Andu's eyes flashed and he paled, his eyes fiercely glaring at Wang Chong. What young Master Qingyang? Who in the martial arts world has ever seen young Master Qingyang? Before confirming his identity, who would dare to say that he is young Master Qingyang? In my view, his identity is extremely suspicious. Someone, invite this young Master Qingyang to the summit for a chat. I want to have a good chat with this young Master Qingyang. Ji Andu waved his hand and firmly ordered. Yes, protector. The Jingqi League disciples behind him bowed and strode forward. Ji Andu, you dare? At this moment, a figure suddenly stood in front of Wang Chong and glared at Ji Andu. Song Yuran was so angry that her face turned red and her body trembled. This was not the first time this bastard had done this. Relying on his status as a protector and the favor of the Alliance Lord, he would mercilessly suppress anyone who had a close relationship with him. Chapter 1371. Rumble. Song Yuran's words stirred 1,000 ripples in Wang Chong's heart, and even though the speaker had no intention of speaking, the listener took it to heart. It's him. Wang Chong's mind rumbled like thunder. If Wang Chong had only felt a little suspicious when he sensed that familiar aura from this man, then Song Yuran's words had confirmed Wang Chong's suspicions. Wang Chong had never imagined that he would meet that senior brother of his that he had never met before. Truly, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. I didn't think it would be him. Wang Chong raised his head, an almost imperceptible cold light flashing through his eyes. His attitude was completely different from before. Before, he had only treated this man as one of Song Yuren's pursuers, but now, the nature of the situation was completely different. Wang Chong had imagined countless times that he would meet this senior brother of his, but he had never imagined that it would be under such circumstances. Wang Chong carefully examined his senior brother. He had long and narrow eyes that were harsh and cold, and his brows were sharp and fierce. At every moment, he gave off the feeling that he was on the verge of making trouble. His nose was high and his face was handsome. No matter how one looked at him, he was a handsome man, but he gave off an indescribably feminine feeling, like a worm or a snake crawling on the ground. There was something indescribably strange about him. Kaklet. Wang Chong clenched his hands in his sleeves, a thick killing intent rising in his heart. No matter what, he had to clean up the house for his master today. Buzz. This thought had barely appeared in Wang Chong's mind when Ji Endu's expression changed. As if sensing something, he turned his head to glance at Wang Chong. Protector Ji! Suddenly, a loud shout came from the top of the mountain. In an instant, 6 or 7 Jingqi League experts who had at least reached the Saint Martial realm launched their movement skills and pounced toward the group. I just received word from Elder Ouyang that the Black Yin ancestor of the 5 Ancestor Alliance is taking advantage of the Alliance Lord's absence to attack us. The group of people looked terrified, revealing a strong sense of unease. What? Ji Endu, Song Yuran, and everyone else paled at these words. The Black Yin ancestor possesses astonishing strength. Although he wasn't ranked as high as the demonic emperor back then, he was still in the top 5. We are no match for him at all. Only by forming a formation and combining everyone's abilities will we be able to fight him. Pass down the order, everyone is to be ready to face the enemy at any time. As Ji Endu spoke, he hurriedly flew up the mountain. The other experts of the Jingqi League also made their way up the mountain. Young Master Qingyang, you should leave. Although Ji Endu is sinister and cunning, he is a disciple of the evil path and knows the strength of all evil and unorthodox paths like the back of his hand. If he says that we won't be able to deal with him with our strength, then this is definitely the case. I originally wanted to take you into the Alliance and help you find your guard, but it seems like that's impossible now. The Black Yin ancestor is no trifling matter, and I don't want to drag you down with me. You should hurry and leave. Song Yuren also turned around at this moment and worriedly said to Wang Chong. After all, young Master Qingyang had saved her life, and Song Yuren did not want to drag him down. The worry on Song Yuren's face instantly gave Wang Chong a good impression. Although he had never planned to stay here for long, now that something like this had happened, he actually didn't want to leave. At the very least, Wang Chong had to ensure Song Yuren's safety. What a pity. I can only let him go for now. Wang Chong said to himself as he glanced in the direction that Ji Endu had left. Ji Endu had to be killed. Since he had dared to betray his master, he could not be allowed to live. But there was still plenty of time, and he still had plenty of time before he found the origin immortal art. Rumble. At this moment, dark clouds began to churn in the eastern sky, and a thunderous roar came from the distance. This sudden disturbance immediately attracted everyone's attention. There was a roar that sounded like that of a primordial beast. Under the gazes of countless people, a monster the size of a small mountain broke through the sky from the dark clouds and flew towards the mountaintop. A Qilin. With just a glance, Wang Chong couldn't help but widen his eyes and grimace. The monster that appeared in the dark clouds was a black Qilin that was more than 10 meters tall. The black Qilin's body was extremely thick, and the surface of its body was covered in dense black scales that were as hard as armor. Its tail was constantly swinging in the void, giving off a feeling that it was filled with endless power. Even a mountain peak could be easily shattered by it. Wang Chong was quite experienced and had encountered many opponents, including experts like Kateba who had reached the subtle realm. But this was the first time he had encountered a technique that could transform into a black Qilin and soar into the air. Although he could not determine the true body of his opponent, Wang Chong could sense that this black Qilin was brimming with boundless power. Putting aside the other party's power, The martial arts of the world of sects truly far surpassed the martial arts of the battlefield in their exquisiteness. "It's Elder Ouyang." Cries of alarm came from the summit. "Form the formation." A voice rang out, and the 500 to 600 experts of the Jingqi League swiftly formed a massive formation around the mountain. The atmosphere suddenly changed, and the atmosphere instantly became tense. Countless long swords flashed in the void, reflecting waves of cold light, and aimed in the direction of the sky. This was the first time Wang Chong had seen a battle in the martial arts world. Suddenly, Wang Chong noticed Song Yuran and Song Ju rapidly making their way to the summit. A smile appeared on his lips, and with a wave of his sleeve, he followed. Boom! At almost the same time, the massive black qilin descended from the sky like a meteor, stirring up a cloud of dust and gravel. "Form the formation. Prepare for battle." A loud and clear voice rang out from the black qilin avatar, sounding extremely anxious. In just a moment, a monstrous murderous aura whizzed over. To the east of the mountain range, a huge claw covered in fine black scales suddenly emerged from the dark clouds. The 5 fingers of this claw were like sharp hooks, exuding an indescribably evil aura. At almost the same time, there was a heaven-shaking roar as the massive head of a beast emerged from the dark clouds. After a brief flicker, it vanished back into the clouds. However, it was this one glance that caused everyone to be terrified. Ah! Cries of alarm rang out as countless people on the summit began to retreat. Some people lost their footing and even fell. The originally orderly summit was now in chaos. "The Black Yin Ancestor, it's the Black Yin Ancestor." Cries of alarm came from the summit as the Jingqi League disciples paled in fear. "It's the Dragon Head." On the summit, Wang Chong stood not far behind Song Yuran, his eyes extremely grave. He had clearly seen what had happened just now. The beast head that had emerged from the dark clouds was that of a savage black dragon. The Black Yin Ancestor that the Jingqi League spoke of seemed even stronger than Elder Ouyang, and his dragon form was inconceivably massive. "Ha, Ouyang Changheng, do you think you can escape? Today, this ancestor will capture all your Jingqi League disciples in one fell swoop." Just at this moment, a sinister voice rang out from the sky. It was loud and clear, like the rumbling of thunder. Boom! In the next moment, there was a flash of light, and a dark cloud suddenly exploded at the side. Immediately afterward, a massive black dragon that was 50 to 60 meters long and over 10 meters tall shot out from the dark cloud like a bolt of lightning. "Careful! Careful! There are people from the Black Yin sect on the ground." A series of hysterical and shrill voices suddenly came from the top of the mountain. Beneath the Black Yin Ancestor's black dragon, nearly 100 black-robed experts of the Black Yin sect were galloping toward the Righteous Alliance's base like lightning bolts. The Black Yin Ancestor had brought far more than one person with him this time. "Ha, Ouyang Changheng, today, all your Jingqi League disciples will die." The Black Yin Ancestor's resounding voice resounded through the world. "You dare!" On the summit, Ouyang Changheng was enraged. Before he had even finished speaking, the massive black qilin leaped into the air and charged at the black dragon. "Defeated foe, you won't be a match for this ancestor even if you come again." The black dragon spat out black clouds from its body, giving it a sinister appearance. With a flick of its tail, 2 figures with majestic auras immediately fell from the sky like comets, fiercely smashing towards the top of the mountain. "It's the protectors of the Black Yin sect. Stop them." Nervous voices came from the summit, causing the entire base to be on edge. In a flash, 7 or 8 top-class experts of the Jingqi League flew into the air and lunged at the 2 Black Yin sect protectors. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the black qilin and the giant dragon swooping down from the sky collided violently. Bang! 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 The 2 giant beasts tore at each other with their claws and mouths. Their powerful stellar energy continuously collided in the air, causing huge waves to erupt. With the 2 of them as the center, tens of thousands of tons of air surged violently like ocean waves, whistling and whistling. The gale even sent some of the weaker disciples flying off the mountaintop. As for the Righteous Alliance experts, They were forced back step by the shock waves of energy unleashed by the pair. Clang clang clang. At almost the same time, the clashing of swords and sabers could be heard from halfway up the mountain. The two black insect experts that the black ancestor had thrown down from the sky were like tigers plunged into a flock of sheep, engaging in a slaughter on the summit. The two used their movement techniques, charging left and right, leaving behind a series of afterimages as they slaughtered their way through the crowd. They didn't even try to exchange blows with the Zhengqi League expert. Bastard! At this sight, the Saint Martial experts of the Zhengqi League were so angry that their eyes turned red. The dense crowd of disciples on the summit had become their greatest obstacle. As for the black insect, because they had fewer people, they were more agile and could use their skills to slaughter the Zhengqi League disciples. Chapter 1372. Wang Chong watched from the sidelines, his mind in turmoil as he watched this battle between righteous and evil. By dispatching only two experts, the black insect had already caused a great deal of chaos in the Zhengqi League. Moreover, they did not linger in battle, maximizing the damage they could inflict. Get ready! At this moment, the Zhengqi League disciples on the mountain responded. Relying on the terrain of the mountain, the Zhengqi League disciples formed a formation. The winds howled as Wang Chong coldly watched. The body of one of the Zhengqi League disciples flashed with light as stellar energy burst out of his body and entered the body of a second Zhengqi League disciple. Then, together with the second disciple's stellar energy, they charged toward the third disciple. In the blink of an eye, the stellar energy in the bodies of 10 some Zhengqi League disciples had merged into a small sword formation that began to spin. The sword formation's targets were the black ancestor in the sky and the two black insect experts on the ground. Boom boom boom. 1, 2, 3. On the huge mountains, from top to bottom, the sword formations began to operate rapidly. They were like gears that were constantly turning, independent of each other but also connected to each other. Attack! In the next moment, the earth cracked and the mountain crumbled. Several dozen sword formations of various sizes spat out hundreds of sharp swords, which transformed into pillars of light that howled toward the black ancestor in the sky. At that moment, all was silent. Heaven and earth were silent. It was as if time had stopped. Even Wang Chong had lost his calm smile, his expression turning grave. This was the first time he had seen the disciples of the sect fight together. Everything felt novel to him, completely different from the battle methods he was familiar with. The communication between the disciples was simple, fast, and effective, allowing each person to exert their full strength. In the face of this attack, even the black ancestor in the sky showed a wary expression. His body moved left and right in the air. Thump, thump, thump. The dragon's tail swung and the dragon's body rammed, knocking away countless flying swords. Almost none of the flying swords managed to strike the black ancestor in midair. The black ancestor's stellar energy was so powerful that some of the flying swords were shattered upon impact. Although the mysterious great ancestor appeared to be unbridled and unbridled, Wang Chong could tell that even the mysterious great ancestor was fearful of the 600 or 700 Zhengqi League disciples and the dozens of sword formations on the mountaintop, and would intentionally or unintentionally avoid the sharpness of these sword formations during the battle. Even so, the Zhengqi League situation was far from optimistic. Kill these people from Zhengqi League. At this moment, a series of earth-shattering battle cries rang out from the foot of the mountain. In such a short time, the experts of the Shenin sect had already arrived at the foot of the mountain at lightning speed. Be careful! Send out 20 sword formations to stop the disciples of the Black Yin faction at the foot of the mountain. While Wang Chong was still in shock, Song Yuran took command and began to direct the Zhengqi League disciples on the mountain. Boom! Boom! In an instant, a series of furious roars rang out. The disciples of the Zhengqi League on the mountain were flustered. They immediately turned their spears around and aimed at the experts of the mysterious Yin faction at the foot of the mountain. A deafening sound rang out, as if two black and white torrents had collided heavily. Both sides had engaged in close combat. The battle had just begun, but it had already entered a white-hot stage. Poof, poof. Pooh! The sound of sharp blades piercing through bodies rang out incessantly. Before the disciples of the Zhengqi League could react, their bodies were already pierced through, and they fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, the faces of everyone on the mountaintop instantly turned pale. Quick, send word to the Alliance Lord and Martial Uncle. Only when they return will we be able to deal with the Black Yin ancestor. Song Yuren's lips were trembling, but she maintained her composure. The current situation was extremely disadvantageous to the Zhengqi League. The Alliance Lord was not present, and 80% of the League's fighting power had been taken away by him to search for the Origin Immortal Palace and the Evil Emperor. The Black Yin ancestor had chosen this moment to attack when the Zhengqi League was at its weakest. Moreover, as one of the titans of the evil path, the Black Yin ancestor was so powerful that it was simply impossible to stop him. When it rains, it pours. Song Yuran was even more worried about what would happen next. Boom! In a flash of light, a massive black qilin suddenly descended from the sky and smashed into the summit, stirring up a cloud of dust. Martial Uncle! Song Yuran paled at this sight. But this was far from over. A moment later, a massive black dragon descended from the heavens, crashing into the Righteous Alliance's sword chi. Screams filled the air as the sword formations crumbled. Together, with fierce shouts, the experts of the Zhengqi League gathered into a sword formation and attacked the Black Yin ancestor. Young Master Qingyang, retreat! Song Yuran noticed Wang Chong behind her and anxiously called out. Rumble! A series of explosions resounded in his ears, and the billowing airwaves rushed out for dozens of meters. Song Yuran's group simply did not have the strength to stop them. With no time to say anything, Wang Chong quickly retreated with Song Yuran's group. The Black Yin ancestor was extremely powerful, and Wang Chong could sense that his stellar energy was as tough as steel. To be able to cultivate his energy to this level meant that he had long ago reached an inconceivable level of cultivation. No matter how one looked at it, the Black Yin ancestor was definitely one of the most difficult characters to deal with. Kill! The sounds of fighting could be heard as the Black Yin ancestor at the summit, the Black Yin sect experts at the base, and the two Black Yin sect protectors halfway up the mountain were like tigers charging into a pack of wolves. The situation on the mountain quickly became extremely unfavorable for the Righteous Alliance. Screams filled the air as one Righteous Alliance disciple after another dropped into pools of blood. The Black Yin sect had apparently been prepared for this attack, and the entire Zhengqi League had suffered massive losses. Bang bang bang! Countless Zhengqi League disciples were caught off guard and dropped to the ground like weeds, their blood flowing down the mountain and staining the earth red. No matter what, we have to stop them. Song Yuran's face was pale as she watched the Zhengqi League disciples fall, but her expression slowly became determined. Song Ju, hurry and take young Master Qingyang away. Song Yuran suddenly said. The wind howled, causing her black hair to dance in the wind. What about you, senior sister? Song Ju said. Clang. The cry of a sword answered Song Ju's call. Song Yuran unsheathed her sword and used her movement technique to charge toward the place where the battle was most intense. Halfway up the mountain, the two Black Yin sect protectors were rampaging, destroying one sword formation after another and causing the Zhengqi League's sword formation to shrink by 30%. Moreover, the entire Zhengqi League was unable to focus on the battle. They posed a far greater threat than the Black Yin sect experts at the base of the mountain. Senior sister, it's dangerous. Song Ju had not expected Song Yuran to deal with those two powerful and dangerous Black Yin sect protectors. The gap between the two sides was simply too great. Song Yuran charging forward was suicidal. It's too late. I don't know when Martial Uncle and the others will return. If we don't stop them, the entire Zhengqi League will be killed. Song Yuran clenched her teeth and joined the battle, joining the other Zhengqi League experts in attacking the two Black Yin sect protectors. Swish! The air whistled as evil and sinister sword chi pierced through the air like sabers. It was the same demon ghost art, but in the hands of these two Black Yin sect protectors, it was many times stronger. The gap between the two was simply incalculable. Bang! One of the Zhengqi League experts failed to dodge in time and was struck by a sinister demonic claw. In a flash, his clothes were torn to shreds, his chest caved in, and he was sent flying like a ragged kite. Swish! Song Yuran had just entered the fray when there was a flash of bloody light as she was struck by a bolt of energy, leaving a massive wound on her shoulder. Blood flowed out, but Song Yuran clenched her teeth and showed no intention of retreating. Crane flight art. Song Yuran raised her sword and used the illustrious crane flight art of the Jianghu. This cultivation technique was created for women, and it required a sharp sword to be used. Once it was used, the user's speed would greatly increase, and they would become as light as a crane. Moreover, they would be able to spin the sword in their hands at an extremely high speed. It possessed inconceivable destructive power and could easily tear through a martial artist's stellar energy. Song Yuran had not been strong enough to use this art, but she had no time to worry about such things now. In the distance, a black insect protector had transformed into a 20-foot-tall demon, his body shrouded in black energy as he fought his way up the mountain. Around him, the Zhengqi League experts roared as they attacked from all sides. Ding! Song Yuran's sword clanged as she stabbed at the black insect protector, who was clearly much stronger than her. Boom boom boom! Destructive waves of black yin energy exploded toward the Zhengqi League experts and Song Yuran. The air howled as an intense sense of danger welled up in her heart. Black General Impermanence. A sliver of despair flashed through Song Yuran's mind. The two great experts of the Black Yin sect, Black General Impermanence and White General Impermanence, were known as the twin fiends of impermanence. The two of them had killed countless righteous martial artists in the martial arts world, and their cultivation levels were far too high. She alone was no match for them. Step onto the Qian position. Song Yuran clenched her teeth and took a step forward. Move to the Li position. At this critical moment, Song Yuran took a step to the side, narrowly avoiding Black General Impermanence's fatal blow. Flying Willow Catkin. Song Yuran immediately followed suit, almost instinctively using the technique that Wang Chong had taught her against Wei Changting. Swish! A wisp of sword chi shot forward, accompanied by the sound of tearing silk. Song Yuran's sword had not struck Black General Impermanence, but it had still managed to tear through his robes. Even Black General Impermanence was taken aback by this sudden attack. Foul girl, you're seeking death. A harsh shout rang out as a pair of sharp eyes locked onto Song Yuran from within the roiling black clouds, a deep fury in them. Song Yuran panicked and finally lost her composure. Chapter 1373. Stupid girl, is this how you use a technique? In the rear, Wang Chong didn't know whether to laugh or to cry as he saw Song Yuran using exactly what he had taught her. Not even he had expected that Song Yuran would use the technique he had taught her to deal with the black insect protector who was much stronger than Wei Changting. Step on the Kuan position and move to the Zhen position. Just as Song Yuran was about to die to Black General Impermanence, Wang Chong suddenly spoke up. Bzz. While his mind was still thinking, his body had already begun to react. Song Yuran took a step back and abruptly stepped out at a slight angle. Boom! There was a heaven-shaking boom as a destructive black stellar energy shot through the air, barely missing Song Yuran by a few inches and shattering the boulder that was half a man's height into smithereens. Let alone Song Yuran, even Black General Impermanence was dumbfounded by this sudden sight. How could a little girl have this kind of strength? Black General Impermanence was both shocked and furious, his eyes brimming with disbelief. Without the slightest hesitation, the stellar energy in his dantian exploded, sending a torrent of evil energy howling into his right arm as he thrust a palm at Song Yuran. Profound sun seals the heavens. Wang Chong's voice rang out once more. Song Yuran raised her sword and flipped through the air, once more narrowly avoiding this attack. Not only that, Song Yuran's sword had almost struck Black General Impermanence's arm. Black General Impermanence paled as he retreated like a bolt of lightning. At the same time, he punched at Song Yuran. Crane form. Crane image. At this moment, Wang Chong spoke of a technique that he had never used before. Boom! The stellar energy in Song Yuran's body exploded, and with a crane's cry, spiritual energy gathered around her, transforming into a massive and lifelike red-crowned crane that descended and fused with Song Yuran. A moment later, with a shrill cry of a crane, Song Yuran's sword seemed to come to life, transforming into a thick stream of sword chi that shot through the air toward Black General Impermanence. Screech! The long sword left his hand, and the cries of cranes filled the void. The cries rose and fell, and the figures of countless little cranes appeared in the void. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Black General Impermanence had no time to think and could only hurriedly throw out a punch. Billowing black chi and white light violently collided in the void. When the light dissipated and the stellar energy calmed down, countless Jingqi League disciples watched in shock as a sharp sword pierced through Black General Impermanence's left shoulder. The tip of the sword pointed downwards and protruded out of Black General Impermanence's back, leaving only the hilt exposed. Although this single strike had failed to kill Black General Impermanence, it had severely injured him. This is impossible. The first to exclaim in shock was not the distant Black General Impermanence, but Song Yuran, who had personally caused all this. The crane form was one of the most powerful techniques of the crane escape art. Its most unique trait was that when the surrounding spiritual energy was extremely thick, it could be drawn over and fused with the user's stellar energy to unleash an attack far stronger than normal, heavily wounding the opponent. But Song Yuran was well aware that this technique had an extremely harsh requirement for the density of the surrounding spiritual energy. She had practiced it for so long, but she had never succeeded even once. "Foul girl, I'll kill you." Black General Impermanence's eyes went round in shock, but he quickly reacted and lunged at Song Yuran. As a famous figure of the martial arts world, the black and white protectors of the Blackeen sect, he could not allow himself to be defeated by a girl who was weaker than him. Stop him. The surrounding Jingqi League experts were also stunned, but they quickly regained their composure and lunged at Black General Impermanence. Swoosh. At this moment, Song Yuran retreated to Wang Chang's side. "Young Master Qingyang, how do you know the moves of our crane escape art?" Song Yuran asked in disbelief as she gazed at Wang Chong, who was leisurely strolling through the chaotic battlefield. The crane escape art was a secret that could not be passed on to outsiders, but it seemed like Wang Chong understood it even more than she did. This was simply unbelievable. "Ha, have you forgotten? I am young Master Qingyang." Wang Chong faintly smiled as he found an impeccable excuse. Boom. At this moment, a massive boom came from the summit, accompanied by a heaven-shaking roar. Countless Jingqi League experts were sent flying like ragdolls. At the same time, an elderly and panicked voice resounded in everyone's ears. "All disciples, hear my order. Retreat." It was Elder Ouyang's voice. After fighting with the Black Yin ancestor for so long, Ouyang Changheng was finally unable to hold on any longer. The black qilin on the summit had dimmed and cut a sorry figure. Song Yuran's face instantly paled, and even her breathing stopped. Ouyang Changheng was the strongest martial artist of the Jingqi League, as well as one of the top-class experts of the Jingqi League. Most importantly, the Black Yin ancestor had always been extremely bloodthirsty and cruel. Once he set his sights on someone, he would not rest until they were dead, even if he had to chase them down for 1,000 li. Once he retreated, the several hundred Jingqi League disciples left behind would immediately suffer grievous casualties. Elder Ouyang understood this principle, and it was obvious that he was at such a disadvantage in his battle with the Black Yin ancestor that he believed he had no choice but to retreat. Ignoring Song Yuran's reaction, the Jingqi League Ouyang Changheng's order caused the entire mountain to fall into a domino effect, sending everyone into a panic. They had already been at a disadvantage against the Black Yin sect experts, and now that they heard Elder Ouyang's order, they began to retreat in panic. "Kikik, the ancestor is mighty. Old Ouyang can't hold on much longer. Everyone work harder. Slaughter the Jingqi League until nothing remains. Go! Go!" The Black Yin sect experts at the base of the mountain were invigorated by this sight, and they used this chance to strike while the iron was hot to attack the Righteous Alliance disciples on the mountain. Screams filled the air as more and more Jingqi League experts fell to the ground like weeds. Looking down from the summit, one could see corpses strewn across the ground. Swish! In the chaotic battle, no one noticed a figure in the crowd getting closer and closer. When this figure was still 7 or 8 paces from Wang Chong's group, a fierce black energy suddenly shot through the air toward Wang Chong. No one had expected this. Only Wang Chong faintly smiled, apparently having predicted this. "Ha Wei Chongting." Wang Chong clasped his hands behind his back, a hint of derision in his eyes. Although his strength had dropped, dealing with Wei Chongting was still a piece of cake. Bzz. Summoning his stellar energy, Wang Chong bent his index and middle fingers, preparing to flick them forward. Clown. He truly didn't care about a clown. Careful. But a moment later, something happened that left Wang Chong dumbfounded. In a flash of light, a figure appeared in front of him. Swish. In the blink of an eye, Song Yuren had been struck by Wei Chongting's sword qi, piercing through her shoulder and causing her to fall to the ground, blood gushing out. Song Yuren. In the crowd, Wei Chongting had never imagined that his attack would be blocked by Song Yuren. Young miss. Kill. The surrounding Jingqi League experts reacted and madly charged at Wei Chongting. Even someone as talented as Wei Chongting, hailed as a rising star of the evil path, couldn't help but fall back in panic. This foolish girl. Wang Chong stared in a daze at Song Yuren, a complicated look in his eyes. With his strength, he was completely capable of blocking Wei Chongting's attack. What he truly hadn't expected was for Song Yuren to be willing to block it for him. At this moment, Wang Chong felt an indescribable feeling. He was both surprised and moved. He had originally planned to play around in the Jingqi League, but now, Wang Chong felt that he could no longer ignore it. Miss Song, in truth, you didn't need to save me. Wang Chong helped Song Yuren up and fed her a recovery pill. Cough, cough, young master, what are you saying? I dragged you into this battle, so I must take responsibility. Moreover, young master saved my life, so how could I allow you to be injured? Song Yuren lightly coughed, her breathing weak. Young master, you should leave quickly. If you're too late, you really won't be able to leave. Song Yuren's voice was tinged with concern and concern. Everyone in the world knew that young Master Qingyang was not very skilled in martial arts. Given the Black Yin ancestor style, if young Master Qingyang remained here, he would be doomed. Wang Chong fell silent. Song Yuren clearly still thought of him as that young Master Qingyang. I'll just treat it as returning a favor. Wang Chong took in a deep breath as he looked at the chaotic battlefield on the summit and the Righteous Alliance disciples falling one by one, a thought flitting through his mind. Miss Song, rest here for now. I'll be right back. Wang Chong scanned the area, put down Song Yuren, and strode toward Wei Chongting with a flick of his sleeve. There, 10 some Jingqi League disciples were attacking Wei Chongting, but thanks to his unfathomable demon ghost art, they were unable to take him down. Not only that, Wei Chongting had even managed to kill 2 of the Jingqi League's experts. It's your bad luck to run into me. Wang Chong turned his head to look down the mountain at Wei Chongting, his robe flapping in the wind. With a flip of his hand, a stone had appeared between his index and middle fingers. There were still experts from the Jingqi League on the mountain, so Wang Chong was not prepared to reveal his identity. But in dealing with Wei Chongting, Wang Chong did not need to. 3 seconds later, as Wei Chongting was getting fiercer and fiercer, Wang Chong suddenly flicked his finger. Pa! A stone was ejected from the ground. This stone did not have much force behind it, nor was it very fast. Even an ordinary person, if they were just a little stronger, would be able to throw it. But it was precisely these ordinary pebbles that, in the chaotic battle of over a dozen martial arts experts and the turbulent flow of stellar energy, had actually passed through layers upon layers of interception, as well as Wei Chongting's stellar energy defense. Through a tiny gap, in the instant that Wei Chongting made his move, they had precisely struck the Shinzhong acupoint below his ribs. Chapter 1374. Not good. Wei Chongting paled in fright. He had never imagined that he would be struck by a stone, and that it would even cause his stellar energy to lose balance and throw his offense and defense into disarray. What was even more shocking was that he had clearly tried to stop the stone, but for some reason he had not been able to stop it. Swish. Just when Wei Changting's stellar energy was in disarray and he was left wide open, a sword stabbed into Wei Changting's body like a spirit serpent. Immediately after, a cold light flashed and a long sword shot out in all directions, slicing through the void. Ah! A blood-curdling scream was heard, and blood sprayed everywhere. Wei Changting's left arm fell to the ground with a plop. Damn girl! Brat! I won't let you get away with this! Leaving behind these resentful words, Wei Changting actually transformed into a streak of bloody light and fled despite the presence of the Black Yin ancestor, rapidly fleeing into the distance. Just who is this bastard? Wei Changting's face was ghastly pale, his forehead covered in cold sweat. The rules of the Black Yin sect were strict, and fleeing in the face of battle would result in severe punishment. Even though he was a favored disciple of the Black Yin ancestor, Wei Changting was worried that if he did not flee, he would die on the mountain. If I help someone, I'll help him to the end. Wang Chong saw Wei Changting flee, but did not pursue him. His gaze turned to the Black General Impermanence and the White General Impermanence. These two were employing guerrilla tactics, constantly changing positions and killing their way through the Jinchi League's array. They were a greater threat than the Black Yin sect experts at the foot of the mountain. Wang Chong strode off to the other side. The Black General Impermanence and the White General Impermanence were among the best in the world in terms of speed and agility, and they were far more skilled. They were definitely difficult characters to deal with. Moreover, because of their guerrilla tactics, the Jinchi League sword array would find it very difficult to be effective against them. But Wang Chang's gaze quickly focused on the sword array used by the Jinchi League. The Jinchi League's sword formation was very subtle. The power of over a dozen people merged into one, maximizing the overall strength of the team. As the wind howled, Wang Chong stood there motionlessly. His gaze landed on the sword formations one after another. Gradually, Wang Chong also saw some clues. Although the formation looked complicated and the positions of the dozen or so men were constantly changing, Wang Chong could sense that the sword formation used by the Jinchi League strictly followed the 8 directions of Qian, Kuan, Ken, Li, Jin, Sun, Zhen, and Dy. Moreover, Wang Chong could gradually discern some of their attacking patterns and methods. Qian position. Attack the left Shinshu acupoint. Wang Chong's robes fluttered in the wind as he suddenly spoke. However, the mountainside was in chaos, and no one paid attention to Wang Chong. Boom! Almost at the same time, black gas billowed and ghosts wailed. Black General Wu Chang's demonic claws rolled up boundless black gas and fiercely struck the sword array at the Qian position. Poof! In an instant, 6 or 7 Jinchi League disciples paled and vomited a mouthful of blood. The others were also pale and ugly. Although the sword formation could maximize everyone's power, when they were attacked, the attack would also be transferred to everyone. Kuan position. Attack the right Gongyu acupoint. Wang Chong's robes fluttered in the wind as he spoke again. Boom! As if responding to his voice, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The Kuan position was also attacked. 5 or 6 Jinchi League disciples were sent flying like kites with their strings cut. Their chests caved in while they were still in the air, and their bones were broken. The entire sword array immediately collapsed. He's talking to us. Listen to him. Do as he says. At this time, someone finally reacted. Wang Chong was instructing them to attack Black General Wu Chang while avoiding his direct attacks. Who's there? Finally, Black General Wu Chang noticed Wang Chong standing on a boulder not far away, and a sharp glint flashed through his eyes. Without hesitation, Black General Wu Chang's body flashed, and he immediately leaped toward Wang Chong. At the same time, he used the demonic ghost bow technique to attack Wang Chong. However, Wang Chong seemed to have anticipated this move, and he had already moved to the side before Black General Wu Chang could make his move. Boom! A wisp of energy brushed past Wang Chong by a hair's breadth, striking empty air. Zhen position. Shen Chong point at the back of the heart. Wang Chong was unperturbed as he spoke again as if nothing had happened. This time, the moment Black General Wu Chang charged over, a sword array was immediately activated at the Zhen position to his back, attacking the Shen Chong point at the back of his heart. At this time, Black General Wu Chang's stellar energy had just reached the Shunchang point. Feeling the sharp sword qi behind him, Black General Wu Chang's expression changed slightly, and he had no choice but to stop and turn around to face it. Can position. Chifu point. Upon hearing Wang Chang's voice, the Jingqi League experts on the Can position attacked like lightning bolts, their majestic sword qi working in perfect harmony with the Gen position sword array. Black General Wu Chang staggered, his aura in disarray, and his entire face paled. The surrounding Jingqi League experts were also invigorated, no longer having any doubts. Although they didn't know how this youth had done it, it was clear that he knew the Jingqi League sword array like the back of his hand, and Black General Wu Chang's movements had been completely within his calculations. Li position. Yuzhong point. Sun position. Mingmen point. Zhen position. Shuangguan point. Wang Chang's profound gaze seemed to see through all of Black General Wu Chang's movements. Whether Black General Wu Chang rushed left or right, he couldn't escape Wang Chang's interception. Behind him, Song Yuran and Song Ju were dumbstruck, their eyes wide open. They knew that Wang Chong had sharp eyes and could see the flaws in his opponent's moves, but they had never imagined that Wang Chong would be able to see through the movements of a titan of the evil path like Black General Wu Chang. Moreover, from Wang Chang's expression, he seemed to have some understanding of the Jingqi League sword array. This completely shattered the two's common sense. Wonderful. Song Yuran clenched her fists in excitement. Meanwhile, the battle against Black General Wu Chang had reached a critical juncture. Swish. A sword pierced through Black General Impermanence's stellar energy and deeply cut into his body. Soon after, a second sword pierced into Black General Impermanence's abdomen, and a third sword left a deep gash on Black General Impermanence's back. The flesh beneath the gash was torn open, revealing white bone. Black General Wu Chang finally began to panic. His strongest points were his movement techniques and strength. In the face of so many attacks, his strength had already lost its advantage. All he could rely on was his unpredictable movement techniques. But that azure-robed brat of unknown origins had clearly seen through his movement techniques. Every time he tried to break out of the encirclement, this brat would predict his movements and force him back. Just who is this person? Black General Wu Chang was growing more and more panicked. A 17-year-old youth was actually able to see through his techniques and movement techniques. This was simply unbelievable. There were only a few people in the entire martial arts world who could do this. Zhen position, Shanzhong point. Wang Chong suddenly said. Just when Black General Wu Chang was beginning to grow weary, there was a flash of cold light as a sword stabbed at the Shanzhong point on his chest. In normal circumstances, Black General Wu Chang would have been able to block this attack, but under Wang Chang's command, the sword formations were attacking in turn, forcing Black General Wu Chang into a state of panic. Swish. Chi. In the next moment, there was a flash of cold light, followed by a shrill scream. A sword that could cut through hair had pierced through the center of Black General Impermanence's chest, the tip of the sword emerging from his back. Black General Wu Chang screamed, his entire body thwarted. The Shanzhong point was at the center of the chest, a vital point of the human body. Black General Wu Chang's aura immediately scattered. A good chance. The crowd was invigorated by this sight, and in a flash of cold light, swords began to stab into Black General Wu Chang's body. Clang. There was a shocking sword hum as a cold light flashed past Black General Impermanence's neck. Blood flashed, and his head immediately flew high into the air, spinning as it flew. What a fast sword! I can't accept this. Black General Wu Chang stared up at the spinning sky, his vision darkening, and then he knew nothing more. Black General! The distant White General Wu Chang's eyes went red. Wang Chong had ordered the sword formations to attack Black General Wu Chang, freeing up the Jingqi League experts who had been pursuing the two of them to deal with him. White General Wu Chang struggled to keep up, but he had never imagined that in just a few moments, Black General Wu Chang would be killed. Only White General Wu Chang is left. Kill him. The sight of Black General Wu Chang's corpse on the ground invigorated the crowd, and they began to raise their swords and join in the assault on White General Wu Chang. With so many people attacking White General Wu Chong, there was no need for Wang Chong to intervene. Without the interference of these two, the Jingqi League was in a much better position to deal with the situation. Young Master Qingyang, you're truly too formidable. In a gust of wind, Song Ju rushed to Wang Chong's side and began to examine Wang Chong as if he was getting to know him for the first time. Behind him, Song Yuan coughed, her face pale and weak as she swiftly walked up to Wang Chong. Young Master Qingyang, thank you. Song Yuan said sincerely, her face filled with gratitude. It was a slight effort. Wang Chong faintly smiled. Rumble. At this moment, there was a heaven-shaking boom, accompanied by screams. Several dozen top-class experts of the Jingqi League were flung from the summit along with countless rocks and sand. What Jingqi League? All of you die for me. The Black Yin ancestors' savage and arrogant laughter resounded through the sky. Boom boom boom. The Black Yin ancestors' black dragon tail swung, sending several dozen Jingqi League experts flying like ragdolls. In an instant, everyone's faces turned deathly pale. Chapter 1375. What do we do? What do we do? There's no way to stop them. Everyone's going to die this time. On the summit, a top-class expert of the Jingqi League raised his head to that massive black dragon, his heart aflame. The situation was dire. In just a few moments, 5 or 6 top-class experts of the Jingqi League had been slain by the Black Yin ancestor. Even Elder Ouyang had been injured, let alone the others. This was the Black Yin ancestor. Cut the weeds and pull up the roots. When the demonic emperor was still around, he had been able to suppress the Black Yin ancestor. But now, there were very few people who could suppress him except the Alliance Lord. This expert of the Jingqi League subconsciously turned to Elder Ouyang Changheng, only to discover that Ouyang Changheng's face was even paler and more unsightly than theirs. It seemed like he would collapse at any moment. Ouyang Changheng had done all he could in this battle. Young Master Qingyang, could I trouble you to help the elders? At this moment, a voice rang out in Wang Chong's ear. At some point, Song Yuan had walked up to Wang Chong, her eyes brimming with worry and dissatisfaction, as well as the hope of a drowning person who had just seen a straw to clutch at. The Black Yin ancestor has done all sorts of evil, and the 5 Ancestor Alliance is like fire and water with us. He won't let us escape. The only person on the battlefield who could intervene in this battle on the summit was young Master Qingyang. He was everyone's only hope. The wind howled and the sounds of fighting filled the air. Wang Chong stood with his hands held behind his back, his blue robes flapping in the wind. His eyes flashed as he gazed at the fierce battle between the Black Yin ancestor and the experts of the Jingqi League. Wang Chong had no desire to get too involved in the Jingqi League. If he wanted to withdraw, now was the best time. Moreover, the Jingqi League had come for his master, and the Alliance Lord of the Jingqi League had a grudge with his master, the evil emperor. It would be good if more of them died. However, Wang Chong's gaze quickly fell on the Black Yin ancestor's black dragon form. If one only looked at its outer appearance, the black dragon that the Black Yin ancestor had transformed into was majestic and lifelike, almost identical to a real black dragon. Wang Chong could even see the black scales on its body, as well as 2 long dragon whiskers that danced in the wind. But this Black Yin ancestor isn't anything good either. Wang Chong thought to himself. Back then, it wasn't just the martial artists of the so-called righteous path who had besieged Master. There had also been a considerable number of heavyweights and martial artists of the evil path, and this Black Yin ancestor just so happened to be one of them. Master being plotted against, he also had a part in it. All right. As this thought flashed through his mind, Wang Chong quickly agreed. With a wave of his green sleeves, he immediately turned around. His feet stirred up a bit of dust as he headed towards the peak of the mountain, where the battle was the most intense and also the most dangerous. Song Yuan suppressed her injuries and followed along with Song Ju. The world was quiet, and Wang Chong stood 100-some paces from the summit. Young Master Qingyang's name resounded throughout the world, but Song Yuan was not confident that young Master Qingyang would be able to help the elders. This fellow isn't that much weaker. As Wang Chong gazed at the black dragon on the summit that had forced back the members of the Jingqi League, many thoughts flitted through his mind. The Black Yin ancestor was different from Black General Impermanence. His martial arts were far too profound and formidable, and it was extremely difficult for an expert of this level to find a flaw in him. Moreover, the Black Yin ancestor had transformed into a black dragon, and this form minimized his flaws. Unless Wang Chong revealed his true identity and joined the battle, he would normally find it very difficult to threaten the Black Yin ancestor. But for Wang Chong, there was another way to deal with the Black Yin ancestor: the world of energy. Buzz. In a flash, Wang Chong's eyes flashed, and the world around him suddenly changed as he was transported to another dimension. Everything between the heavens and the earth disappeared. Only endless energy could be seen surging between the heavens and the earth. In Wang Chong's eyes, the Black Yin ancestor no longer existed. Amidst the endless surging tide of energy, a huge mass of black energy stretched between heaven and earth. That mass of energy was incomparably berserk and sinister. It was like a black hole, sucking in energy from all directions and surging over. In Wang Chong's perception, the Black Yin ancestor was like a bottomless black hole that madly devoured everything around it. Around him, countless streams of powerful energy surged and clashed with the Black Yin ancestor's energy ball. But like candlelight in the wind, the black ball of energy flickered and flickered incessantly. If everything went as expected, the Jingqi League would soon be utterly defeated. It's still not enough, Wang Chong said to himself. He blinked, and the world in his eyes once more changed, becoming even clearer. This was a transformation that had occurred to Wang Chong after his return from the Battle of Talas. It wasn't just the evil emperor and the others who had benefited from witnessing Kutaba's breakthrough into the subtle realm. Wang Chong had also benefited greatly. The most obvious improvement was that his perception of the various sources of energy had become much sharper and more precise. In a flash, everything in Wang Chong's eyes became even clearer, as did the black ball of energy on the summit. The black ball of evil energy had transformed into the vivid and lifelike form of a dragon. Wang Chong could even see the countless strands of energy flowing back and forth within it. This was an endless cycle. Even Wang Chong couldn't help but sigh in amazement at the complexity of the black dragon that the Black Yin ancestor had transformed into. The dragon's head, whiskers, tail, and scales were all formed from stellar energy and involved many different aspects. If not for the fact that one's control over stellar energy had reached an astonishing level, one would never have been able to successfully use this technique. In this aspect alone, the Black Yin ancestor's cultivation far surpassed that of the vast majority of martial arts experts. But even so, Wang Chong's mind remained calm. Any martial artist has a weakness, and this Black Yin ancestor is no exception. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. His sharp gaze quickly focused on the circulation of energy around the Black Yin ancestor's body. The Black Yin ancestor's energy was like a storm. Though berserk, it was extremely orderly. Even though Wang Chong had entered the world of energy, he had not been able to see any obvious weakness. Wang Chong was well aware that this sort of supreme martial arts expert was inconceivably skilled and would not be so easy to deal with. "Young Master Qingyang, how is it?" Song Yuren's anxious voice came from the side. Wang Chong said nothing, only stared at the summit. The battle continued, the Black Yin ancestor's wild laughter echoing through the heavens. More and more Jingqi League disciples were felled, and the Black Yin ancestor alone was able to suppress the vast majority of them. As the winds blew down from the summit, Wang Chong's gaze fell on the Black Yin ancestor's body, all the transformations of stellar energy on his body appearing in Wang Chong's mind. Found it. After some time, Wang Chong's eyes flashed as he locked onto a certain spot in the Black Yin ancestor's body. It was a black speck the size of a fingernail, and the Black Yin ancestor's evil energy made it almost inconspicuous. It took Wang Chong a very long time to notice it. This black speck had been hidden deep within the Black Yin ancestor's body at the start, but as the battle continued and stellar energy flowed, it slowly drifted out of his body and onto the surface. An ordinary martial artist would have never noticed such a small change, but in Wang Chong's eyes, it was like a candle flame. This is an old injury. The Black Yin ancestor has been famous for many years, and it seems like he suffered no small number of injuries in his youth. Those injuries have accumulated in his body, and although he has used his monstrous cultivation to resolve the majority of them, he has suffered far too many injuries that not even someone of his cultivation level can resolve them. Normally, these injuries wouldn't show themselves and wouldn't have much of an effect. But when one encountered a powerful opponent or engaged in an intense battle, when one's stellar energy was pushed to the limit, they would immediately show themselves and begin to affect the circulation of stellar energy. The Black Yin ancestor's cultivation level was simply too high. Ordinary martial artists wouldn't be able to do anything even if they noticed it, but it was a completely different story for Wang Chong. Song Yuren, hear my order. Have 16 sword formations come over. Wang Chong suddenly said, looking up at the summit. Song Ju, pass on my order. Have them all come over. Song Yuran said without hesitation. Once the summit could no longer hold, all that awaited them would be defeat and death. Given the Black Yin ancestor's personality, he would probably slaughter 90% of the disciples here. The battle at the base of the mountain was intense, but the 16 sword formations Wang Chong had requested quickly arrived. Everyone was waiting for Wang Chong's order, swords drawn and bows bent, the atmosphere extremely tense. Everyone hear my order. The battle on the summit is no trifling matter. We can only support and attack. Without my order, do not engage the Black Yin ancestor in a direct confrontation. Wang Chong sternly said. Another bestial roar came from the top of the mountain. The great ancestor of the mysterious dark sect, who had transformed into a black dragon, slammed down with a huge claw, causing the entire mountain to tremble and dust and gravel to fly into the sky. Begin! Without the slightest hesitation, Wang Chong's eyes flashed with light as he gave the order. According to Wang Chong's orders, the 16 sword formations were arranged in a zigzag formation every 10 paces as they charged up the mountain. Bang! One of the sword formations failed to react in time and was sent flying by the Black Yin ancestor's energy. But the majority of the Zhengqi League disciples succeeded in reaching the summit. Kaio! With a heaven-shaking roar, the sword formations rapidly approached the Black Yin ancestor. Clowns! Chapter 1376. The crowd on the summit cried out in alarm and began to retreat. Only Wang Chong maintained his composure. Can position, dragon body, 10 inches. Wang Chong suddenly said. Boom! In the blink of an eye, at least 3 sword formations hit the 7-inch dragon body at the can position at the same time. The Black Yin ancestor had been focused on dealing with Ouyang Chang'eng, but he suddenly grimaced. Li position, dragon body, 4 inches. The 4 sword formations flew through the air, sending milky white bolts of sword chi into the air and slamming into another part of the black dragon. Zhen position, dragon body, 9 inches. Dy position, dragon body, 2 inches. Qian position, dragon body, 6 inches. In the howling winds, Wang Chong's gaze was fixed on that fingernail-sized black dot within the black dragon's body. Wherever that black dot moved, Wang Chong would direct the 16 sword formations to attack. On the summit, the Black Yin ancestor didn't pay much attention at first, but his complexion gradually grew more and more unsightly. Those flea-like Zhengqi League disciples were attacking the weakest points of his stellar energy. Under normal circumstances, the Black Yin ancestor wouldn't have paid them any attention, but now that his stellar energy was being attacked, the Black Yin ancestor's stellar energy was being consumed. More importantly, these attacks were beginning to affect the circulation of energy in his body. And the effects were becoming more and more obvious. How could this be? The Black Yin ancestor could feel his stellar energy being drained under the relentless attacks of the Zhengqi League disciples. He clenched his teeth in disbelief. This was not his first time clashing with the Zhengqi League disciples. In the past, no matter how many of them there were, they had never posed a threat to him. This time, however, the Zhengqi League disciples seemed to have been reborn. There were fewer of them and fewer sword formations, but the impact of this battle was far greater than any other. Foul brat! The Black Yin ancestor's eyes flashed as he scanned the battlefield, quickly locking onto Wang Chong. "You're seeking death." Buzz. The heavens and earth changed color, and an abnormally large amount of spiritual energy condensed into a solid substance suddenly broke through the air and locked onto Wang Chong. Good chance. If the Black Yin ancestor could sense this, so could Ouyang Changheng. He had been prepared for failure, but now, the 16 sword formations formed by the disciples of the Jingqi League had attracted at least 40% of his attention and strength. Moreover, due to their attacks, the upstanding qi in the body of the great grandmaster of the mysterious dark sect was affected, slowly becoming unstable and sluggish. In a battle of this level, these were extremely fatal. Everyone listen up. We can't let the Black Yin ancestor leave. Ouyang Changheng shouted, forcefully gathering his stellar energy and transforming into the 10-meter-tall Black Qilin once more. His strength was extremely young and unyielding, and it was incomparably vast. With a boom, it soared into the sky and lunged at the Black Yin ancestor. Black scale descends from the sky. The air rippled like waves, and the surging energy turned into a huge Kirin's right claw, pouncing at the great elder of the mysterious dark sect. In a flash, a cloud of dust rose from the mountain, the clashing of stellar energy and the roars of battle shook the heavens. The battle was more intense than ever before. The shockwaves of the battle blew down from the summit, causing Wang Chong's black hair to dance in the wind. Song Yuren, tell me all the sword formations of your Jingqi League. Hurry! Wang Chong's eyes were fixed on the summit, not even turning his head. Song Yuren nodded. Without the slightest hesitation, she began to recite the names of the sword formations of the Jingqi League. Sword charges the bull, peerless sword qi, bright sun hangs high, bright moon rises from the east, sun and moon shine together. Song Yuren had no idea why Wang Chong was asking about this at a time like this. This was because unless one had cultivated the martial arts themselves, it would be very difficult to understand the crux of them. But the situation was urgent, and Song Yuran subconsciously obeyed Wang Chong's order. The Black Yin ancestor will soon launch a counterattack. Song Yuran, Song Ju, both of you retreat 20 zhang. Keep your distance from the battlefield, Wang Chong said without turning his head, his voice suffused with an unquestionable tone. Song Yuran's heart trembled. For some reason, the young master Qingyang at this moment exuded an aura of absolute majesty that made it impossible for anyone to resist him. Song Yuran and Song Ju both retreated, and the area behind Wang Chong was now empty, becoming even more conspicuous in the Jingqi League. On the summit, as Wang Chong directed the Jingqi League disciples into the fray, the situation began to subtly change. At the start, the Black Yin ancestor had been almost unstoppable. But the Jingqi League soon began to encircle him, and he began to lose his edge. Moreover, the Black Yin ancestor began to grow tired of dealing with them. Not only did he have to deal with Ouyang Changheng, who was the strongest in the frontal assault, but he also had to deal with the 16 sword formations. Later on, even the other Saint martial experts began to notice some clues and joined the sword formations in attacking the weak points of the Black Yin ancestor's stellar energy. This made the Black Yin ancestor's disadvantage even more obvious. Let alone killing Ouyang Changheng, he was even being suppressed by the Jingqi League. How could this be? Where did such a person come from in the martial arts world? The Black Yin ancestor's mind was in turmoil, as if he had seen a ghost. As a titan of the evil path, the Black Yin ancestor knew all the famous and new members of the martial arts world like the back of his hand, but he had never seen that kid on the mountain before. Not only that, the Black Yin ancestor slowly began to sense something. He didn't know how this kid was doing it, but he seemed to be able to see through the circulation patterns of his stellar energy and even sense the weak points of his stellar energy. One had to realize that these weak points were constantly changing, moving with the flow of stellar energy. Wang Chong was actually able to completely predict where he would appear in the next moment. He was even able to predict the speed at which the Jingqi League disciples would attack, allowing them to strike his vitals every time. This was what shocked him the most. You dare oppose this ancestor? You're seeking death. This ancestor will kill you, and then I'll kill that scoundrel Ouyang Changheng and the disciples of the Jingqi League. As the Black Yin ancestor gazed at the azure-clothed youth halfway up the mountain, an intense killing intent emerged in his heart. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the mountains quaked as the Black Yin ancestor transformed into a giant black dragon. Roiling stellar energy surged into the sky like a massive black wave. Under the control of this black energy, the swords of the Jingqi League disciples soared into the sky, transforming into a rain of swords that shot toward Wang Chong. Xiu. With a sharp whistle, a sword transformed into black sword qi and shot toward Wang Chong with astonishing speed. But Wang Chong remained calm and unperturbed, as if he had already anticipated this. He took half a step to the side in advance, and the Black Yin ancestor's sure-kill sword brushed past his left cheek by a hair. Boom! A series of explosions rang out, and the sword landed 7 or 8 steps behind Wang Chong. The entire blade of the sword sank into the ground, triggering an earth-shattering explosion. Countless stones rained down in all directions. Xiu xiu xiu. In the blink of an eye, the second sword, the third sword, at least a dozen swords rained down on Wang Chong. However, Wang Chong looked up at the sky, his feet moving as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. He took 5 or 6 steps in succession, perfectly dodging the initial attack of this wave of swords. Protect the young master. The surrounding experts of the Jingqi League immediately reacted, flying over to help Wang Chong block the rain of swords. Even the experts of the Jingqi League on the summit noticed the handsome youth halfway up the mountain and moved to intercept him. Wang Chong mentally nodded at this sight. Although he was strong enough to take on these attacks, with the help of the experts of the Jingqi League, he would not have to expose himself too much. Gen position, Dragon Body 6 Cun. Sun position, Dragon Body 8 Cun. Li position, Dragon Body 1 C. The Black Yin ancestors' attacks were sharp and incisive, but Wang Chong's counterattacks were also incredibly fast. When the Black Yin ancestor was still trying to attack Wang Chong, he inevitably revealed some openings. Wang Chong directed the experts of the Jingqi League on the summit to attack. The Black Yin ancestor's black dragon form was both shocked and enraged, and he was forced to retreat under the onslaught of the experts. Impossible! How could this kid dodge this ancestor's attacks? As one of the titans of the evil path, even a righteous expert like Ouyang Changheng would find it very difficult to dodge his attacks. At the very least, he would not be able to casually dodge them like that kid. For someone like the Black Yin ancestor to have such a large difference in accuracy in killing a single person was simply a fantasy. The only explanation was that this kid was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. He had already predicted all of his attacks. Such a person was truly frightening. He had no background, no name, no background, and yet he had such vision and experience. The Black Yin ancestor found it more and more difficult to see through this kid's identity. A good chance. Wang Chong's ears and eyes had been paying attention to the activity on the summit this entire time. The Black Yin ancestor's mind was clearly in disarray after suffering so many setbacks. This was the best opportunity to attack. But in terms of attacking style, Wang Chong had already begun to adopt a completely different method. Can position, sun and moon shine together. Li position, radiant sun hangs high. Gen position, sword charging at bull. Sun position, peerless sword qi. Qian position, bright moon rising from the east. Chapter 1377. This mass attack was so sudden that even the Black Yin ancestor was caught off guard. Most fatal of all was Ouyang Changheng's attack. Darkness Qilin. The furious roar of a Qilin resounded through the heavens. Ouyang Changheng's hair and beard stood on end, his eyes shining with a dazzling light. A massive black Qilin broke through the gap in the Black Yin ancestor's defense, bursting with destructive energy. Like a comet, it struck the black dragon's chest with the momentum of a thunderbolt. Ah! The Black Yin ancestor screamed as he was sent flying by this dreadful attack. This was the first time the Black Yin ancestor had suffered such a blow since his clash with Ouyang Changheng. Bastard! The Black Yin ancestor vomited a mouthful of blood, both shocked and enraged. Ouyang Changheng's attack had truly infuriated him, but the main culprit was that blue-clothed brat at the base of the mountain. If not for him, no matter how powerful Ouyang Changheng was, he would never have been able to wound him. "You bunch of useless trash, why haven't you killed him yet?" The Black Yin ancestors' roar resounded through the entire Jingqi League stronghold. No one could have imagined that the target of his rage was not Ouyang Changheng, but Wang Chong, who had not even participated in the battle. The Black Yin ancestors' roar caused the experts fighting with the Jingqi League to notice the blue-clothed youth at the base of the mountain. At this moment, Wang Chong became the undisputed center of the battlefield, countless gazes focused on him. Wang Chong was taken aback by this strange atmosphere, but he quickly began to laugh. Although he had been noticed by everyone, it made it even easier for Wang Chong to make a name for himself in the martial arts world. At the very least, he had made a name for himself with this battle. Kill! Kill that brat! In an instant, countless disciples of the Xianyin faction roared and rushed toward Wang Chong's position. If the King of Hell wanted you dead by the third watch, who would dare to keep you alive until the fifth watch? Any disciple of the Black Yin sect who the Black Yin ancestor wanted dead, no matter the price, would have to be killed. In a split second, the sounds of fighting could be heard from the top of the mountain. The disciples of the mysterious Yin faction rushed towards Wang Chong like a tidal wave. "All Jingqi League disciples, hear my order. Protect young Master Qingyang." At that moment, a woman's voice suddenly rang out in everyone's ears. Song Yuran suddenly gave the order. The disciples of the Jingqi League also reacted at this time. Each of them held a long sword in their hands, blocking the disciples of the Black Yin faction while shrinking the encirclement to protect Wang Chong. "Protect young Master Qingyang. Protect young Master Qingyang. Protect young Master Qingyang." A series of shouts resounded throughout the world. The other disciples of the Jingqi League had also noticed the situation here, and they all headed towards Wang Chong's direction. Clang clang clang. The clash of swords and sabers and the rumbling of stellar energy filled the air. The battle was even more intense than it had been in the past. For the first time, the Jingqi League and the Black Yin sect, two major factions of the martial arts world, were fighting over a young man who was neither a member of the Jingqi League nor the Black Yin sect. At some point, Wang Chong had become the focus of the entire battlefield, the crux that would decide the outcome of this battle. Not even Song Yuran, who had brought Wang Chong to the base, had expected this change. Heh! Wang Chong inwardly smiled at this sight. His aura was weak, and he was at his weakest. Everyone now treated him as that young Master Qingyang, who was born with a flaw and was not very skilled, someone who could be easily slaughtered. Even the Black Yin ancestor did not seem to doubt his identity. This provided him with a natural disguise. Can position, Li position. Radiant Sun High. Qian position, Sun position. Sun and moon rise from the east. Wang Chong remained unperturbed, indifferently gazing at the summit as he directed the experts of the Jingqi League into battle with the Black Yin ancestor. Many ants could bite an elephant to death. Although the Black Yin ancestor was powerful, in the face of so many sword attacks from every direction and Ouyang Changheng, he found himself in dire straits. Under Wang Chong's command, these ordinary experts of the Jingqi League, who the Black Yin ancestor normally did not care about, began to encircle him from all sides like invisible steel bars, constantly contracting and trapping him within. The Black Yin ancestor was both shocked and infuriated. He had taken advantage of the fact that the experts of the Jingqi League had left to track down the Origin Immortal Mountain and the evil emperor to launch a sneak attack. In his calculations, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sweep up the stronghold in the rear in one fell swoop. But to his surprise, even though he had succeeded in his plot against Ouyang Changheng, some inexplicable brat had come along and foiled his plans. The Black Yin ancestor had dominated the martial arts world for more than half his life, but no one had ever dared to oppose him like this. Reckless thing. Putting aside the Jingqi League for now, even if this ancestor doesn't kill Ouyang Changheng today, I'll kill you first to serve as a warning to others. The Black Yin ancestor's fury surged, and his desire to kill Wang Chong instantly surpassed that of Ouyang Changheng, making him his primary target. Boom! A thick stream of evil energy burst out of the Black Yin ancestors' dantian like flowing ink. Just when the Black Yin ancestor was about to use this secret art that could kill 1,000 enemies and 800 allies, the situation suddenly changed. Luo Qin, is this all you've got when this one isn't here? Only finding juniors to deal with. At this moment, the sky rumbled as a dignified and majestic voice came from the void. Before his voice faded away, a golden light suddenly shot out from the bottom of the clouds, instantly illuminating the entire horizon, dyeing the sky like the rosy glow of dawn. In the depths of the clouds, there was a destructive force burning the heavens and the sea, rushing towards the top of the mountain at an extremely fast speed. Not good. Song Yu, the Black Yin ancestor, who had been arrogantly trying to kill all the disciples in the rear of the Jingqi League, was like a mouse that had seen a cat. His entire body paled, and a look of extreme apprehension appeared in his eyes. Retreat! Everyone retreat! Song Yuanyi has returned. Everyone retreat! The Black Yin ancestor's voice was panicked as he fiercely swung his body, enduring the blows from Ouyang Changheng and the Righteous Alliance disciples. Then, with a burst of stellar energy and a cloud of dust, he soared into the air and began to flee. But even though the Black Dark Great Ancestor reacted quickly, the figure that had suddenly appeared in the air and dropped down from the depths of the sky was even faster. The Black Dark Great Ancestor had barely fled several hundred zhang when that figure caught up with him and crashed into him. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, the terrifying explosion set off a violent gust of wind between heaven and earth. Kakla. 7 or 8 banners of the Taiji Immortal Crane were snapped in two, and countless Righteous Alliance disciples cried out in alarm as they were swept up in the wind and sent flying, together with countless stones and stones. Song Yuanyi. Just you wait. This is only the beginning. The Black Yin ancestor's furious roar came from the sky, his entire body transforming into a black blur as he fled. In the sky, that figure did not pursue the Black Yin ancestor. His body was like a feather as he circled in the air, and then, thump, he landed on the summit of the mountain. When that person landed, he seemed to weigh tens of thousands of jin. The entire mountain seemed unable to bear his weight and fiercely shuddered. It's the Alliance Master of the Jingqi League. When the disciples of the Xianyin sect saw the figure that appeared on the top of the mountain, their eyes flickered and their faces revealed expressions of extreme fear. In an instant, everyone turned around and fled into the distance like birds and beasts. The moment that person appeared on the summit, all the Jingqi League disciples became energized and began to pursue the fleeing Black Yin sect disciples. At almost the same time, an even louder battle cry came from the west. Hundreds of Jingqi League experts were charging in this direction. Each of these Jingqi League experts was incredibly powerful. At a glance, there were even 6 or 7 experts on Ouyang Changheng's level. The situation was instantly reversed, and a few moments later, the Black Yin sect was completely routed. While everyone else was pursuing the fleeing Black Yin sect disciples, only Wang Chong stood motionless on the mountain. His gaze turned and quickly landed on the white figure that suddenly descended from the sky at the top of the mountain. This person is the Alliance Master of the Jingqi League? Wang Chong raised his head and silently sized up that figure. This person appeared to be in his 40s or 50s, and he wore the snow-white robe of the Jingqi League, yet he exuded an indescribable might. His face was old-fashioned, his expression solemn, and he did not smile. His eyes shone with a sharp light, giving off an aura of incomparable sharpness. But what left the deepest impression was the boundless and frenzied energy in his body that seemed capable of tearing apart the heavens and earth. Anyone would feel a deep reverence in the face of this terrifying energy, which was as vast as the sea. What a powerful expert! With a single glance, Wang Chong's heart shivered. At the same time, he swiftly concealed his cultivation. Although this was his first time seeing this person, the Alliance Master of the Jingqi League gave Wang Chong an extremely dangerous feeling, even more so than the Black Yin ancestor. Moreover, Wang Chong sensed that if the Alliance Master saw through the great yin-yang heaven creation art in his body, a fierce battle would immediately ensue. Jumping Clown! At this moment, on the summit, The alliance master of the Zhengqi League, Song Yuanyi, stood with his robes flapping in the wind, his body brimming with the aura of a divine Buddha. At this moment, he did not even notice Wang Chong halfway up the mountain. His sharp eyes were extremely cold, and he just locked on the escaping experts of the Xianyin sect in the distance. Swish! In a flash, Song Yuanyi flicked his right hand. 10 some streams of qi from his finger were so dense that they seemed almost tangible, shooting off in every direction like pieces of metal. After shooting out more than 300 feet, these finger energies suddenly split into 2, and then into 3. Their speed instantly increased, and they hit the escaping experts of the Black Moon sect in the distance. Rumble! In that instant, there was a series of explosions, accompanied by shocking screams. The Black Moon sect disciples who were trying to escape were pierced by the finger qi, leaving large holes in their bodies. Their bodies trembled as they fell to the ground. Some of them were even sent tumbling back 10 some zhang. Chapter 1378. Alliance Lord. Alliance Lord. Alliance Lord. The righteous Alliance disciples quickly came back to their senses and excitedly cheered, their voices shaking the heavens and the earth. As they stared at the white figure on the summit, their eyes shone with fanaticism and worship. It was like the figure standing on the summit was not a person, but a god. In a flash, Wang Chang's expression turned extremely grave. He sensed that this person was definitely a powerful foe of his master, the evil emperor. Father! At this moment, a beautiful figure brushed past Wang Chong and rushed toward the figure on the summit, throwing herself into the arms of the Zhengqi League Alliance Lord. Wang Chong's body trembled at this sight, his mind in turmoil. From the moment Song Yuran had commanded the Zhengqi League disciples, Wang Chong had been able to tell that Song Yuran had an unusual status. But Wang Chong had never imagined that Song Yuran would be the daughter of the Zhengqi League Lord, Song Yuan. His master, the evil emperor, and the Zhengqi League Lord were mortal enemies, and Song Yuanyi might have played a part in the plot against his master. But Wang Chong had never imagined that he would casually save Song Yuanyi's daughter. A complicated look appeared in Wang Chong's eyes. It's about time. I should quit while I'm ahead. This Zhengqi League Lord is no ordinary individual. Anyone who could plot against my master back then is definitely a scheming individual. My injuries haven't healed yet, so if I stay here, I'll most likely be exposed. As these thoughts flitted through Wang Chong's mind, he quickly weighed the pros and cons and made up his mind. Taking advantage of the crowd, he began to retreat. Young Master Qingyong, just where are you planning to go? Wang Chong had just taken a few steps back when a gloomy voice rang in his ear. A figure emitting a cold aura suddenly appeared in front of Wang Chong, blocking his path. G2. Wang Chong narrowed his eyes and instantly recognized the figure. When the Black Yin ancestor had descended and fought on the summit, Wang Chong had not seen Ji Andu, but now he had appeared out of nowhere and blocked Wang Chong's path of retreat. Young Master Qingyong, you made great contributions in dealing with the Black Yin ancestor, and now that the Alliance Lord has appeared, how can you leave now? Ji Andu's face was wreathed in smiles. He seemed to have good intentions, but his eyes were cold and devoid of emotion. As soon as he finished speaking, he looked around and at Song Yuran on the summit. Everyone, this is the renowned young Master Qingyong of the martial arts world. Junior sister, young Master Qingyong is about to leave. Aren't you going to stop him? Looking at Song Yuran on the summit, he raised his voice a few octaves. Buzz! Wang Chong's heart chilled and he glanced at Ji Andu. But Wang Chong quickly calmed down. No matter what scheme Ji Andu had in mind, he had made the wrong move. Right, father, that person is the illustrious young Master Qingyong of the martial arts world. He got separated from his guard, and your daughter happened to run into him on the road and brought him here. If not for his help this time, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to resist. Ji Andu's reminder also caused Song Yuran to look over. Now that her father had appeared and the situation was settled, she immediately thought of introducing this young Master Qingyong to him. Young Master Qingyong was said to be a master of all martial arts, and countless factions wanted to pull him into their sections. This was also one of her selfish reasons for bringing Wang Chong to the summit. Oh! At Song Yuan's reminder, Song Yuan turned around, his eyes as sharp as swords as they swiftly focused on Wang Chong. At this moment, Wang Chong felt like he had been thoroughly inspected. Alliance Lord Song, I pay my respects. Since Wang Chong had already made up his mind, he decided to make his way to the summit. Since he was already here, Wang Chong stopped several paces in front of Song Yuan, his expression neither servile nor overbearing. In a flash, Wang Chong became the center of attention, countless gazes focused on Wang Chong. Good sir, is young Master Qingyang? At this moment, a voice came from the side. Several Zhengqi League elders exuding storms of energy walked out of the crowd and examined Wang Chong, their eyes brimming with joy. Young Master Qingyang's reputation in the martial arts world couldn't compare to martial arts titans like Zhengqi League Lord Song Yuan or Ouyang Changheng, but as the number one of the younger generation, young Master Qingyang still received the attention of countless people. Most importantly, young Master Qingyang was far too mysterious. No one had ever seen him before. Young Master, many thanks for your assistance. This song represents the entire Zhengqi League in thanking young Master. Zhengqi League Lord Song Yuan finally spoke. His voice was indifferent and devoid of emotion. Right, the Northwest is remote and uninhabited. Why has young Master Qingyang come here? In addition, young Master's guard has always been inseparable from young Master. How did young Master get separated from him? Our Zhengqi League has many disciples and is well informed. Perhaps he can ask around for you. At the end, Song Yuan glanced at Wang Chong, his deep eyes seeming to contain a deeper meaning. This one happened to hear several martial artists discuss that a large number of people from the sects had appeared in the Northwest, and that even the Alliance Lord had come. This one was curious and decided to come here to take a look. But there was a hiccup in the middle. My guard and I were ambushed, and the two of us were separated. Even now, I have no news of him. I presume that Ji Wu is somewhere recuperating. Once he is healed, he will naturally come to find me. Ji Wu is a powerful martial artist with a deep foundation, so there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Many thanks for Alliance Lord's concern. Wang Chong faintly smiled and cheerfully spoke. As he spoke, he bowed back, his expression and demeanor inspiring admiration. Father, young Master Qingyang is truly an astonishing talent. Although his martial arts aren't very high, with just a few words of advice, he was able to command the disciples of our Zhengqi League to cooperate and kill the Black Yin sect's Black General Impermanence. In addition, it was his timely assistance that allowed your daughter to escape from Wei Changting. Song Yuan immediately sensed something and hurriedly spoke, speaking up for Wang Chong. Song Yuan's last words caused a ripple in Song Yuan's eyes, and his expression suddenly softened. Young Master Qingyang had helped the Zhengqi League so much that Song Yuan did not want him to feel awkward. This being the case, this song has to thank young Master even more. Meeting young Master is rare. Why don't you stay in our Zhengqi League for a few days? Song Yuan turned around and said, Elder Ouyang, take a limitless token of our Zhengqi League and give it to young Master Qingyang. Young Master Qingyang, with this token, whether you are in the Northwest or anywhere else, you can mobilize the experts of our Zhengqi League at will. This way, you will be even safer. The eyes of all the disciples of the Zhengqi League, including Ouyang Changheng, brightened at these words. Young Master Qingyang's unique insight and profound understanding of the martial path had made him a target for all sides. But his meridians were damaged, so treasures and secret martial arts manuals had no appeal to him. The Alliance Lord's gift of a limitless token could both make up for his flaws and repay his favor, and it could also draw him into the fold, allowing the Zhengqi League to gain a guest expert. This was an extremely ingenious move. Since this is the case, this one will respectfully accept. Wang Chong faintly smiled and clasped his hands as he took the limitless token, a token of extremely high status in the Zhengqi League. The token felt heavy in his hand, and Wang Chong lowered his head to glance at it. One side of the token was engraved with the image of an immortal crane riding a cloud, while the other side was engraved with the word limitless, exuding a powerful aura. Don't just stay here. Hurry and clean up the mountain. Now that the matter was resolved and Wang Chong had accepted the Jingqi League token, Ouyang Changheng finally stepped forward. With a wave of his sleeve, the crowd dispersed. The entire mountain range was filled with signs of destruction. Broken banners, toppled corpses, pools of blood, and mottled swords covered the mountain. All of this required time to clean up. Although the Jingqi League had suffered a significant loss, the corpses on the mountain indicated that the Black Yin sect had also suffered grievous losses, especially when Song Yuanyi had killed quite a few of their experts. Right, father? Did you find anything on this trip? Did you find the demonic emperor and the origin immortal mountain? Song Yuran suddenly spoke, her words immediately drawing everyone's attention and causing them to turn to look at her. Wang Chang's heart thumped as he also turned to look. His master, the evil emperor, was an enemy of Song Yuan. His master had not returned for so long, and Song Yuanyi had left at just the right time, so Wang Chong couldn't help but worry. What he was most worried about was his master's whereabouts. Song Yuanyi said nothing, but a pensive look appeared in his eyes. The matter of the origin immortal mountain doesn't exist. Whether it's really here is still up for debate. Moreover, this immortal mountain appeared far too easily. It's probably not as simple as we imagine. Song Yuanyi indifferently said. Then what about demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu? Is there any news of him? The Jingqi League elder Ouyang Changheng suddenly asked, a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu was infamous and had committed all sorts of evil deeds. He had stirred up countless storms of blood in the martial arts world, and the majority of the Jingqi League had come for him. We ran into him, but he managed to escape, and he even injured quite a few of us. Before Song Yuanyi could speak, a muscular man more than 2 meters tall spoke up. There was a bloody wound on his cheek that stretched from his cheekbone to his temple. His flesh had been blown away, and even a hint of bone was visible. It seemed like he had been wounded not too long ago. Sikong Yuanjia. This was another elder of the Jingqi League, and his status was even higher than Ouyang Changheng's. Chapter 1379. Buzz. Sikong Yuanjia's words caused an uproar on the summit. Everyone began to whisper to each other in shock. Off to the side, Wang Chong inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. His master had been gone for far too long. Wang Chong had been a little worried, but Sikong Yuanjia's words made him feel much more at ease. His master was already on the verge of reaching the subtle realm. Although the Jingqi League had many people and was powerful, it wouldn't be easy for them to deal with his master. It's fine as long as he's fine, Wang Chong quietly said to himself. He had originally been in a hurry to meet up with his master, but now he was no longer in such a rush. How could this be? With the Alliance Lord and so many experts of our Jingqi League, how could Zhang Wenfu have managed to escape? Ouyang Changheng looked at Song Yuanyi and Sikong Yuanjia, his heart trembling in shock. And didn't Zhang Wenfu suffer a cultivation defect? How could he still be so powerful? We also don't know what's going on. That fellow has been in seclusion for 2 years, and not only has his strength returned to its peak, it's even stronger than before. He's even more difficult to deal with than before, and his attacks are different from before. When he attacks, thousands of streams of sharp energy crisscrosses, their power terrifying to the extreme. On the other hand, he hasn't used his evil art in the past. Sikong Yuanjia said, a deep look of shock in his eyes. The demonic emperor's reputation had been forged through slaughter. Even after so long, the entire martial arts world still paled at the mere mention of him. Many of the experts of the Jingqi League would tremble in fear upon seeing demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu. There was no one in the martial arts world who didn't fear Zhang Wenfu. That's the myriad spirit sea art. In the martial arts world, only that technique is compatible with it. I heard that in his early years he had once obtained this lost art, and in the end he kept it in his treasure vault. However, he has been in possession of that supreme art for many years, but he has never succeeded. I just don't know what kind of opportunity he encountered this time, which allowed him to successfully cultivate it. Song Yuanyi said faintly, his expression incomparably dignified. Buzz. Song Yuanyi's words sent the crowd into an uproar, and they all looked at each other in dismay. Even Sikong Yuanjia appeared a little surprised. It was clear that Song Yuanyi had never mentioned this to them before. At the side, Wang Chang's expression didn't change, but his heart trembled slightly. This Song Yuanyi was definitely the most powerful person he had ever met. At the same time, he was also one of the most difficult to deal with. With just a few words, he was able to determine the origin of his master's martial arts. Just based on his words, it was no wonder that his master viewed him as a great enemy. Young Master Qingyang has a special status. Song Yuan's words alone won't be enough to convince him. We'll have to be careful in the next few days. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. Although Song Yuan had spoken up for him, Wang Chong did not believe that he could deceive the Jingqi League Lord with just a few words. But Alliance Lord, isn't it said that no one has ever been able to cultivate the myriad spirit sea art? Ji Andu destroyed Zhang Wenfu's dandan, so how could he possibly cultivate the myriad spirit sea art? Another elder asked. I'm not sure about this matter, but he should have used the myriad spirit sea art. There's no mistaking it. Song Yuanyi indifferently said. Alliance Lord, that old scoundrel Zhang Wenfu is treacherous, cunning, and cruel. Now that we've found his trail, we can't let him escape no matter what. Andu requests that Alliance Lord increase the search effort. We must kill that old scoundrel Zhang Wenfu. At this moment, a cold and sinister voice rang out as Ji Andu walked out, a sinister expression on his face. In a flash, the surrounding atmosphere subtly changed. Wang Chong stared at the nearby Ji Andu, his mind seething with killing intent. This bastard had betrayed his master, and now he was thinking of attacking his master. Truly shameless to the extreme. I originally wanted to let you live for a while, but now, I might have to think of a way to kill you. Wang Chong clenched his fists and said to himself. All was quiet. Putting aside Wang Chong, the Jingqi League disciples all looked at Ji Andu with strange expressions, a hint of disdain in their eyes. Whether they were good or evil, those who betrayed their masters and sects would always be looked down upon wherever they went. And now Ji Andu still wanted to deal with his former master. Although there was nothing wrong with his reasoning, no one had any respect for him in terms of morality. But even so, Ji Andu seemed not to care. He ignored the disdainful gazes around him and focused on the Jingqi League Lord, Song Yuanyi, his expression serious. This is also what we're going to do next. Although we allowed demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu to escape this time, we did not come out empty-handed. Afterwards, we investigated the people from the sects who had dealings with the demonic emperor and obtained an important piece of information from them. During his seclusion, the demonic emperor took in a new disciple. This disciple is not very old, around 17 or 18, and he also cultivates the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Song Yuanyi said. Rumble. The other disciples who had already heard this news were fine, but the Jingqi League experts who had remained on the mountain were all stunned. Ji Andu, in particular, seemed to have been pricked by a needle, his head jerking up. What? Ji Andu's pupils constricted, his fists clenched, and his entire body exploded with an extremely dangerous aura. Although he did his utmost to suppress it, a thick sliver of jealousy and killing intent seeped out of the depths of his eyes. That damned old scoundrel. Ji Andu's heart exploded with rage. He had been completely unaware of this news. The rules of the demonic emperor's faction were extremely strict, and it had taken him a tremendous amount of effort to become his disciple. Moreover, the old scoundrel often hid his abilities, but now he had taken in another disciple. Ji Andu found this completely unacceptable. Jealousy was like a venomous snake, making his face savage. Ji Andu's side was naturally furious, but Wang Chang's side was also alarmed. The imperial court and the world of sects were two completely different worlds. The people of the imperial court knew almost nothing about the world of sects, and the people of the world of sects had little understanding of the imperial court. Thus, even though his master, the evil emperor, had taken action twice, because it had been on the battlefield, not many people in the world of sects knew about it. His master had also never mentioned him to outsiders, so Wang Chong had no idea how they had learned of this matter. Alliance Lord, can this matter be trusted? After all, after what happened back then, how could Zhang Wenfu possibly take in another disciple? A Jingqi League expert suddenly walked out of the crowd and said. As he spoke, he glanced at the savage Jiandu, a hint of apprehension in his eyes. That person had been betrayed by his own disciple. After such a thing had happened, a normal person would have a deep psychological shadow over the idea of taking in a disciple, and this was not to mention that this person had a cruel and ruthless personality. After such a thing had happened, it was even less likely that he would take in a disciple. Wang Chong said nothing, his gaze also falling on this Jingqi League Alliance Lord, Song Yuan. Not even he had any idea how this news had been leaked so soon after he had set foot in the northwest. Song Yuan said nothing, only glanced at Sikong Yuanjia. Understanding, Sikong Yuanjia took 2 steps forward and sternly said, "There should be no doubt about this matter. When we discovered the demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu, there was a formation elder at his side. Although this person isn't very famous in the world of sex, he is skilled in all kinds of ancient formations. This person has a lot to do with how Zhang Wenfu was able to escape. Based on our investigations, the news that the evil emperor had a disciple was inadvertently revealed in a conversation between the formation elder and Zhang Wenfu. Based on what that person said, the demonic emperor's new disciple is extremely young, but he has an extremely high cultivation level. Moreover, it can be seen that Zhang Wenfu views this new disciple with great importance, even bringing him on this journey to the northwest." Demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu and the formation elder went on an expedition, leaving this disciple in the rear. This matter was inadvertently revealed by the formation elder, so it shouldn't be false. Everyone turned solemn, the killing intent in Ji Endu's eyes intensifying. The others also became pensive, and Wang Chong was even more taken aback. It was him. Even if you beat him to death, Wang Chong would have never imagined that the formation elder had made a mistake, but given his personality, it really was possible. This is troublesome. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. "Young Master Qingyang, do you have any thoughts?" At this moment, a familiar voice rang out in his ear. Wang Chong raised his head and met Song Yuan's gaze. His face was so calm that it was impossible to guess what he was thinking. This one is but a wild crane with no more knowledge of the martial arts world than the Alliance Lord, so how could I have any thoughts? Wang Chong gave a slight bow and calmly said. Song Yuan only faintly smiled, his thoughts impossible to read, and then he quickly turned his head away. Guard the mountain. Although the Black Een ancestor has left, there's no telling when he might come back. We can't give them any opportunity. Song Yuan said. Yes, Alliance Lord. Everyone bowed and said in a loud voice. Yuanjia, you have the most experience in this field. You take charge of the arrangements. Song Yuan glanced at Sikong Yuanjia. Yes, Alliance Lord. Sikong Yuanjia hurriedly bowed, his expression one of utmost respect. The conference quickly concluded, and everyone began to disperse. Young Master, my apologies. I concealed my identity and did not tell you that I was the daughter of the Jingqi League Lord. Once everyone had left, Song Yuan walked over, a look of shame on her face. It's just a minor matter. Miss Song does not need to worry about it. Wang Chong waved his sleeve and faintly smiled. He was rather surprised by this matter, but he truly did not care that much. Song Yuan felt much better at Wang Chong's words. Relax. Father has already promised you that we will definitely help you find a personal guard, Song Yuan said. The sky gradually darkened. As the sky darkened, Song Yuan took Wang Chong away to prepare a room for him. As the Jingqi League disciples were busying themselves on the mountain, the shrill cry of an eagle came from the sky. Few people noticed that an eagle with 2 massive wings and sharp eyes was circling over the mountain. Chapter 1380. The moment it locked onto Wang Chong, the eagle's blood-red eyes flickered. With a flap of its steely wings, it stirred up a gust of wind and shot off like a shooting star toward the green mountains in the east. About tens of miles later, that weird-looking eagle with blood-red eyes swooped down from the sky and quickly landed on an outstretched arm under a huge ginkgo tree. My little darling has found its target. Under the ginkgo tree, A black-clothed man laughed strangely. He gently retracted his arm, and the other hand stroked the back of the eagle, looking into the eyes of this blood-red eagle. A moment later, the man in black took in a deep breath, and a blood-red mist began to waft out of the eagle's body. This blood-red mist writhed and danced as if it had a life of its own. It quickly transformed into two streams of mist that entered the man in black's eyes. As the two wisps of mist surged in, a blood-red image quickly appeared in the black-clothed man's mind in the next moment. Almost all of these images were what the eagle had seen before, but they were all covered in a layer of blood-red. Blood-eye? How is it? Where is the target? Nearby, the three bamboo hat men spoke in a cold and aloof voice from behind them. The bamboo hats on their heads were slightly tilted, covering most of their faces. Then they wrapped their bodies with cloaks behind them. They were like bats that had landed on the ground. They were strange, mysterious, and at the same time, it was impossible to see their faces clearly. I've already seen him. He's on a mountain 25 li to the east. That mountain is covered in banners, so there's no mistaking him. Moreover, it seems like our king of foreign lands has found quite a few allies. At the end of his sentence, the black-clothed man cackled. After pursuing him for so many days and killing many of his own people, in the end, they still couldn't escape his discerning eyes and were exposed. Allies? A bamboo hat man beneath the ginkgo tree raised his head and glanced at Blood-Eye in surprise. Blood-Eye nodded seriously. The flag on their mountain peak has the words Zhengqi League written on it. They should be a sect from the Central Plains, and it seems like they have quite a few experts. Xuetong said. Clown. Ignore them. If they dare to oppose us, kill them all. His voice was as cold as a demon god from the 9 hells. The other two bamboo hat men nodded in agreement. As the gods of this world, no matter how powerful the forces of the secular world were, they were nothing more than ants in their eyes, not worthy of their attention. At most, the Zhengqi League was just a slightly bigger ant. Get ready. We'll attack at midnight and kill them all. One of them spoke with a bamboo hat, and he directly decided the entire operation. Meanwhile, at the Zhengqi League base 20-some li away, Wang Chong was seated cross-legged on a boulder, looking down at the mountain. The traces of battle during the day had all been swept away, and from where Wang Chong stood, the surroundings were clean as if nothing had happened at all. Wang Chong slowly looked around and saw the disciples of the Zhengqi League either meditating or resting, their expressions extremely calm. The fierce battle during the day was like a daily occurrence to them, and they couldn't even see the slightest ripple in Wang Chong's eyes. There are many grudges between people in sections. Even the fiercest battle is nothing to them. As Wang Chong continued to look down, he saw at least 5 powerful Righteous Alliance elders seated cross-legged at the base of the mountain, each of them exuding storm-like auras as if they were standing guard in every direction. Each of these elders of the Zhengqi League had reached the peak of the Saint Martial realm, and some of them were even on the same level as Gao Xianji. The 5 of them stood motionless at their respective positions. Although they said to the outside world that they had just experienced a major battle and that all of this was to guard against a possible night attack by the Blackeen sect and 5 Ancestor Alliance, Wang Chong sensed that the Righteous Alliance was secretly targeting him. These 5 elders stood guard at 5 different positions, forming a cage around him. No matter where he went, he would not be able to escape the eyes of these 5. Miss Song, during the day, I heard from your father that Alliance Lord Song and the Zhengqi League are apparently pursuing the evil emperor, and your senior brother Ji and seems to be related to the evil emperor. Just what is going on here? Drawing back his gaze, Wang Chong turned to Song Yuran. The only person Wang Chong knew on the mountain was Song Yuran, so the head of the Zhengqi League, Song Yuani, had simply given him to Song Yuran to receive. Does young Master Qingyang not know? A hint of surprise appeared in Song Yuran's eyes. You know that I didn't pay much attention to these things in the past. Wang Chong found an excuse to cover up the matter. Fortunately, Song Yuran did not pursue the matter. So that's how it is. As Song Yuran spoke, she quickly began to explain. Around 2 years ago, before the Zhengqi League was established, there was a supreme expert of the martial arts world called Zhang Wenfu. He was known as the #1 of the evil path, and the people of the martial arts world called him the demonic emperor. He was extremely powerful and committed all sorts of evil deeds. He had already made a name for himself a long time ago, and through an evil art called the Great Yin-Yang Heaven Creation Art, he reached a level that many people find difficult to reach. From the moment he made a name for himself, he gathered many experts under his command and became a great demon of the martial arts world that everyone feared. He had a ruthless personality, and he massacred almost everyone in the martial arts world. At the time, everyone paled at the mention of him, and very few people even dared to mention his name. Only my father never feared him. Song Yuran's face was brimming with pride as she spoke of her father. But there's a saying that goes, good and evil will be repaid. It's not that retribution has not come, but that the time has not yet come. Zhang Wenfu's evil art can absorb the energy of others and turn them into desiccated corpses. This has engendered enormous resentment in the martial arts world, and although no one dared to oppose him for a very long time, in the end he absorbed too many kinds of stellar energy and suffered a cultivation defect. At the start, he wanted to hide it, constantly trying to resolve it on his own, but in the end his disciple discovered it and the news leaked out. Because Zhang Wenfu had engendered public anger in the martial arts world, the righteous and evil sects worked together, and with the help of one of the evil emperor's disciples, they succeeded in heavily wounding the evil emperor and piercing his dantian, freeing the martial arts world from his reign of terror. That was the greatest event of the martial arts world at the time, and it completely altered the structure of the martial arts world. The Jingqi League and the Five Ancestor Alliance only appeared after that. And the disciple of the evil emperor who participated in this matter was recruited by my father to join the Jingqi League, my senior brother Ji Andu. My father said that he had already turned over a new leaf and that he should be given a chance, but I know that he has never changed. Ever since he entered the Jingqi League, he has been doing everything he can to pursue me, and he even tried to get my father to agree to this marriage. His goal was to succeed my father's position and become the alliance master of the Jingqi League. I've already refused him many times. Although his heart isn't righteous, my father and the elders have always said that a flaw cannot obscure a jade. He made great contributions back then, but no one expected that in the end, the evil emperor would still be alive. Thus, today's events occurred. As she spoke of her marriage, Song Yuran's fair face appeared a little sad and desolate. Wang Chong said nothing, a pensive look in his eyes. Relax. No matter what he wants to do, he won't be able to succeed. Wang Chong suddenly said with a smile. Song Yuran was stunned, and she immediately raised her head to look at Wang Chong, a hint of confusion in her eyes. If I say it won't happen, it won't happen. You'll understand in the future. Wang Chong faintly smiled, offering no explanation. Song Yuran was even more surprised. Although young Master Qingyang had a great reputation, he was not very skilled in martial arts. Moreover, even if he were, he probably wouldn't be able to interfere in the affairs of the Jingqi League. In the Jingqi League, only one person could decide her fate, her father, Song Yuan. Young Master, Song Yuran was just about to ask more questions when she heard footsteps behind her, and soon, a voice rang out in her ear. Young lady, Alliance Lord wishes to speak with you. You must go now. A righteous Alliance disciple had appeared in the rear at some point. I'll be right there. Startled, Song Yuran quickly stood up. Young Master, I'll go first. If anything happens, inform me at any time. With these words, Song Yuran quickly left. The surroundings quickly fell silent, and Wang Chong turned his head and continued to look down the mountain. Young Master Qingyang is truly in a good mood. After some time, a gloomy voice came from behind him, accompanied by the rustling of footsteps. A figure began to approach Wang Chong. Senior brother Ji truly has put a lot of thought into this. In order to meet with me alone, you even came up with this method of moving Miss Song away. Wang Chong faintly smiled, not even turning his head. Bzz. The footsteps came to a halt, and Ji Andu narrowed his eyes as he stared at Wang Chong's back, the dangerous light of a viper in his eyes. You're quite bold to dare pretend to be young Master Qingyang in front of so many people. A moment later, Ji Andu coldly snorted as he stared at Wang Chong and uttered these bone-chilling words. Buzz. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Wang Chong's face was expressionless, but his heart was shaken. In the end, Wang Chong had been unable to hide this from his senior brother. The atmosphere instantly became tense. What is Lord Protector saying? Wang Chong faintly smiled, his face unperturbed. Everyone in the sect knows that young Master Qingyang's martial arts are lacking, so his guard's superb martial arts were all taught by young Master Qingyang. The two of them are inseparable, and Meng is inseparable. I've never heard of young Master Qingyang moving alone, and I've never heard of him having a guard with him. Junior sister believed you with just a few words, but do you think that all of us are blind? Ji Andu approached Wang Chong and examined Wang Chong with sinister eyes. Chapter 1381. Wang Chong inwardly smiled. As expected, his senior brother was not that easy to convince. The identity of young Master Qingyang might have been fooled by others, but it might not have been fooled by him. But Wang Chong was in no rush. It seems like Protector Ji is still very prejudiced against me. Didn't I already tell you when Alliance Lord Song was here? We were attacked by bandits, so we split up. If Protector Ji is interested in my guard, it won't be long before you see him. But this one is helping the Jingqi League, so why is Protector Ji still so suspicious of this one? Is that really all? Wang Chong faintly smiled. Buzz. Upon hearing this, Ji Andu's expression flickered. A cold and sinister aura erupted from his body, making him seem even more dangerous. Oof, you're quite bold. Now that junior sister isn't here, are you not afraid that I'll kill you? Ji Andu's expression grew colder and colder, his index and middle fingers curling as if ready to strike at any moment. But Wang Chong remained unmoved. The 5 elders of the Jingqi League are at the base of the mountain, and the Alliance Lord is at the summit. There are also several hundred disciples of the Jingqi League on the mountain. If Protector Ji wants to kill me, feel free to do so. Wang Chong said. His face was calm and relaxed, as if he didn't care about Ji Andu's threat at all. You! Ji Andu's expression darkened, and he flew into a rage. This bastard had nothing to fear. Wang Chong, on the other hand, had a calm smile on his face. Song Yuanyi had arranged for 5 elders at the base of the mountain. Although this made it impossible for Wang Chong to silently leave, it also made it impossible for Ji Andu to attack as he pleased. If he were to be ambushed and injured while under this sort of defense, he would become the laughingstock of the world. This was essentially a form of protection for Wang Chong. Ji Andu stared at Wang Chong's back, his eyes flickering. Wang Chong's words truly had left him feeling a great deal of apprehension, but a moment later, Ji Andu seemed to think of something and began to laugh. So what if you're young Master Qingyang? Do you really think that I can't do anything to you? An extremely dangerous light flashed through Ji Andu's eyes. He flicked his finger. Swish. A sharp sword of energy stabbed toward Wang Chong's right shoulder. He actually disregarded everything and directly attacked Wang Chong. But a moment later, thoosh. In a flash of light, Wang Chong's body flickered as if he had long since anticipated Ji Andu's attack. With a raise of his hand, he dodged Ji Andu's attack by a hair. Humph! You still want to hide? Ji Andu's entire body exploded with killing intent. Guardian Ji, don't tell me you've forgotten who I am. Wang Chong stood 7 or 8 paces from Ji Andu, his robes flapping in the wind as he spoke. Ji Andu's heart skipped a beat. Young Master Qingyang was an expert in all martial arts and knew all the martial arts of the world. If he could command the disciples of the Jingqi League to deal with the Black Yin ancestor, he naturally could dodge Ji Andu's attack. Guardian Ji, I helped you out of goodwill, and it was your Alliance Lord's will that I remained in the Jingqi League. Since Guardian Ji is so dissatisfied with me, it seems that I can only bid Alliance Lord Song farewell. Wang Chong faintly smiled and raised his voice. You're threatening me. Ji Andu's expression chilled, and just when he was about to strike again, he heard a harsh shout. Guardian Ji, what are you doing? Young Master Qingyang is an honored guest of our Jingqi League. You cannot be rude. At this moment, an elderly voice spoke. A few moments later, heavy footsteps could be heard approaching Wang Chang's group. Ji Endu turned his head and saw that an elder of the Jingqi League was striding toward him. Ji Endu's heart skipped a beat, and he grimaced. Other than the 5 elders at the base of the mountain, there were also several elders patrolling the base. Ji Endu was completely focused on Wang Chong, so he didn't pay much attention to the footsteps. Little could he have expected that Wang Chong had already predicted this and had intentionally raised his voice to bid farewell to Alliance Lord Song, to lure him over. Consider yourself formidable. Ji Endu knew that he could no longer probe Wang Chong, so he immediately pulled back his finger. Elder has misunderstood. Young Master Qingyang has shown kindness to our Jingqi League. I saw that he was alone and only came to take a look. Young Master, let us chat another time. After saying this, Ji Endu began to walk up the mountain. Young Master Qingyang, are you okay? The Jingqi League elder immediately walked over and asked in concern. It's nothing. Protector Ji seems to have misunderstood me. But I'm fine now. Wang Chong indifferently said. Nearby, Ji Endu, who was already 50 or 60 paces away, suddenly felt his face twitch. Oh! The Righteous Alliance elder slightly frowned, a look of confusion on his face. If Wang Chong wasn't willing to speak, there was nothing he could do. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he turned and left. On the summit, Ji Endu stood in the darkness and glared viciously at Wang Chong. Wang Chong was well aware that this matter was far from over. Since Ji Endu had dared to move Song Yuran away and openly appear in front of him to threaten him, there was assuredly more to come. You're seeking your own death. As this thought flitted through Wang Chong's mind, his eyes turned frigid. Wang Chong quickly calmed down and began to adjust his breathing. After some time, while Wang Chong was adjusting his stellar energy, he suddenly felt a burning sensation in his bosom. At the same time, a faint green light emerged from Wang Chong's chest. Although it was not very bright, it was extremely eye-catching in the darkness. Wang Chong reached into his bosom and took out that object. With just a glance, he grimaced. He raised his head and quickly scanned his surroundings. The night was quiet and nothing could be seen. Only gusts of wind whistled as it swept past from above. Everything seemed the same as before, but Wang Chong knew that everything had changed. A crisis was lurking, ready to strike at any moment. With a quick decision, Wang Chong stood up and walked higher up the mountain, vanishing in the blink of an eye. When Wang Chong left, not many people noticed that not far from the foot of the mountain, there was a small figure. A figure, dressed in black, was hidden in a dense treetop. Only a pair of eyes could be seen, sizing up the mountain range in the night with an incomparably sharp gaze. The middle of the night is the best time to strike. In a little while, we'll slaughter them until they're thrown off their helmets and stripped of their armor. The man in black cackled as he turned to the other voice behind him. Blood Eye, have you found the target? Kiki, relax. The target is still on the mountain. He can't escape. A voice rang out. Blood Eye was crouching and hiding on another tree. His aura was one with the tree, and if one didn't pay special attention to him, they wouldn't be able to discover him. It's about time. It's time for us to move. The two of them moved like ghosts, swiftly making their way toward the 3 bamboo hat men. A gentle breeze blew. Everything was hidden in the darkness, and everything was quiet. Around 5 minutes later, there was a sudden gust of wind from the east, blowing toward the Jingqi League. In this sort of night, everything was perfectly normal. But few people noticed that there was something unusual in this gust of wind. To the east of the Jingqi League's temporary base, a Jingqi League disciple dressed in a Taiji crane robe was seated cross-legged on the ground, his palms facing the sky as he silently cultivated. As the wind blew past, this Jingqi League disciple's nostrils flared, and after taking a few deep breaths, he couldn't help but open his eyes, a hint of confusion in them. But before he could figure out what was wrong, his body went limp and he dropped to the ground. 1, 2, 3... As the wind blew past, Jingqi League disciple after disciple suddenly dropped to the ground like wooden stakes. Who is it? With a furious roar, a Jingqi League elder standing guard on the east side of the mountain suddenly stood up, his eyes staring warily into the darkness. This righteous alliance elder was far more sensitive to danger than an ordinary person, and he instantly sensed an intense danger. More than 1 li away, a man in black floated above a tree while 2 others floated in the air, their hands held behind their backs as they coldly chuckled. Beside each of them was a black bag. Under the control of the stellar energy, wisps of fine white powder were flying out like a silver river, converging into the wind. There were at least 1,000 disciples gathered at the Jingqi League's base. Ordinary people would have long ago retreated from such a large number, and not even the 5 Ancestor Alliance would dare to attack while Song Yuanyi was present. But these men in black didn't even care about secular imperial authority, so why would they care about the factions of the martial arts world? No matter how many experts were gathered on this mountain, they would still dare to attack. Not good. Enemy attack. There's poison in the wind. Everyone hold your breaths. Another loud shout came from the dark night. The voice was incomparably anxious. In an instant, it was like a stone that gave rise to 1,000 ripples, and the originally silent mountain range instantly fell into chaos. Cries of alarm came from the summit as more and more disciples awoke from their meditation. By the time they noticed the abnormality on the mountain, it was already too late. The immortal powder was colorless and odorless, making it very difficult to detect. In just a few moments, countless disciples had fallen to the ground like wooden stakes. They're really haunting us. Even though I hid here, they still found me. On the summit, Wang Chong looked down at his surroundings, his eyes cold. Even though the battle had not yet begun, Wang Chong had already sensed the auras of those men in black. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.